Hey, we're back with another one, and boy, do we got a podcast for you. This is Brent with the Exchanges Podcast in conjunction with Current Issues Discussion Group. And this is a podcast dedicated to bringing all types of people together to go ahead and have a conversation about anything and everything under the sun. We do try to stick to current issues, but we get into some heady topics too. Either way, like I said, man, this podcast is definitely a good one. We cover the NFL protests, the UN summit with our buddies Kim Jong Un and Donald Trump and what they had to say with that. We cover universal basic income and the United States education system. We have quite a few people at this one too. I think there was maybe 7 people around the table in total. And the conversation did get a bit feisty, but it was good. It was good because we were all passionate about our ideas and our beliefs and what we had to say about all of these issues. I want to go ahead and thank, per usual, Savannah, Helene, Matt, Kwaku, who actually came back. Kwaku was gone for a minute, making a lot of money out there, got himself a new job, doing his thing. But thank you for coming back again, Kwaku, and chilling with us and having a great discussion. Also, I want to thank Kyle for coming back out. And we had 2 newcomers, David and Angie. And thank you guys for showing up, because both of you had some awesome things to go ahead and contribute. And the discussion wouldn't have been as intriguing if you guys were not there. Oh, and don't let me forget Linda and Ed. Man, I said there were 7 people in this conversation. That's like 9 or 10. I'm not even really counting. But Linda and Ed, thank you guys for coming out. Linda was new, and Ed, our Vietnam vet, has been to several of our conversations. So my apologies, Ed. Thank you for coming out. And you had also a lot of awesome things to go ahead and add to this conversation. And Linda was definitely a passionate voice. I loved everything that she had to go ahead and say, too. What else I got to go ahead and bring up here? I think that is about it. Should I just go ahead and get into it? Should I linger here? Should I bring up some other stuff? Well, this podcast is coming out a bit late. We had this one 2 weeks ago, and tomorrow we have our next one, where we're going to go ahead and talk about the Las Vegas shootings, artificial intelligence, and the new tax codes that the Republican Party is trying to go ahead and push. So I'm a bit behind, but I'm catching up. And I'm looking forward to that discussion being just as amazing as this one, because this one by far was definitely our most exciting one. I think that's about it, guys. Should I just go ahead and get into it? Oh, I know what I always forget to do it. Please go ahead and like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Eventually, we will be on iTunes, and we will be in the Google Play Store for all of you Android listeners. So you can go ahead and listen to the podcast wherever you're at. I mean, you can do it through YouTube now, but maybe you don't have a YouTube Red account, and you can't close the app and all of that good stuff. But we're going to go ahead and be expanding this platform. So if you go ahead and smash the like button, if you go ahead and subscribe, that's going to go ahead and bring our channel a little bit up to the closer to the surface of this type of podcast format. And people will be able to find it. We'll maybe get some more listeners, and they'll be able to spread. And maybe we'll go ahead and be able to bring in some more unique voices from around the world. I actually have one person who I'm looking to go ahead and get on here soon, maybe after the holidays, who is in Africa. I want to go ahead and get her perspective on the United States and her experiences out where she lives. So I want to be able to go ahead and bring more content to you guys from a wide variety of perspectives, not just here in Atlanta, Georgia, but from all around the nation and from all around the globe. All right, I'm done going ahead and chatting you guys' ears off. Let's go ahead and get to it. See you guys on the tail end. Bada boom. We're live. So yeah, each of you guys at the edge of the table here, if you want to be heard, you probably have to speak up a little bit more. I do amplify this stuff a little bit later, so your voices will come in clear. Yeah, you guys have prime seating.
Okay.
I know, yeah. So, I mean, it's free willing, it's So it first started out as like basic universal income, right? And then the stuff happened with the NFL protest. Well, first the stuff happened with the UN, right? There's a UN summit where Donald Trump had some interesting things to say. The North Korean ambassador, I believe, was there. He had some interesting things to say, and so that prompted me to go ahead and put that down, or think to go ahead and put it on the website. And then we just had the whole comments by Donald Trump about the NFL protests, which blew that thing up pretty big. So then, like, the NFL protests have been going on for a minute, right? Like, that's not something new. But it just, for some reason, it became huge because Donald Trump actually, the President of the United States actually decided to go ahead and say some inflammatory comments at Alabama rally. What is it, a game rally? What exactly was a rally? Was it he just showed up and decided, we're going to go talk about it?
He's already campaigning for his re-election.
Okay, so he decided just to go to Alabama, deep red state, his bases are talking about it. And so I decided to go ahead and put that on there.
For the special election, he's endorsing one candidate, in which the base in Alabama is endorsing the other candidate.
Okay, so he was campaigning for what's that, Luther Strange? Was that guy's name? Yeah, okay. Him.
And the base is supporting the other guy.
What a last name to, go ahead and campaign on this. Strange.
Well, that's a guy who
He's like 7 foot.
The guy the base is supporting is the guy that he was a judge and he wanted to put the 10 Commandments.
Yep. He didn't he did.
He did. Right. But they took,
He defied court order to take it down.
Exactly.
I thought he defied the court order on the gay marriage, too.
I don't know about
No,
that.
he didn't on that. He's known as the 10 Commandments judge.
The 10 Commandments judge. What's up, Kwaku? Long time no see, man.
Yeah, how's it going?
Been pretty good.
Hey,
go ahead and grab a seat.
Hey, what's up, man?
There you go.
Good, thank you.
Make sure we're in the
So, sure, yeah. Now we are being recorded, so if you just want to go ahead and say your first name, go ahead and do that. Or you can kind of put a pause in between both of your names. I can edit it out. But, however you want to do it. But everybody knows me. I'm Brent the Beak. I'm the co-organizer here. Let's go around left.
I'm Kyle.
Kyle.
That's all I want to know.
That's enough. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Kyle.
I'm Kwaku.
I'm Helene.
Tom.
Linda.
What was that, Savannah?
sign language.
Huh?
Ed.
Angie.
Dave.
Angie and Dave. All right, all of you got that? Right? You remember that?
No, but
No,
yeah.
me neither, man. My memory's shot. My memory's shot. But it'll be easier for people out there listening. It'll be easier. Like, okay, I know Dave's voice. I know Angie's voice. All right, so you know what? I mean, our original topic was going to be universal basic income, so we'll go ahead and touch on that. The last time we were talking about, Montessori education? I also just plug that in there too, because I thought that was really interesting. There was some cool stuff that I never even heard about and knew about when we were talking about that last time, Savannah. So I was like, maybe we can go ahead and talk about that too. But let's go ahead and begin with obviously, the most inflammatory one, right? The NFL protests. What do you have to say about that, Dave? Huh?
I mean, it's despicable, but it is doing exactly what Trump wants it to do, and that is it's distracting from the Russia issue, because we just had a piece of legislation passed that prevents the firing of the Russia investigator. Almost no news about that. They're all talking about this, and it's supporting the Alabama court nomination, which we've talked about. There's a big fight in Alabama. He wants to get something that Alabama will get around, even if other things are. So it's disgusting, it's despicable, but I don't think even Trump cares about it or is against it. I think he's just doing it to distract like he usually does and get that plug in, and it's going to work 100%. I guarantee you his nominee's going to take it.
What's disgusting?
His comments.
His comments or
his comments against it, and to even really bring it up.
Just the fact that he made comments.
Right.
Yeah, the president has no business saying anything about who should be protesting at all, but, fired in a private enterprise like the NFL. The NFL is a private, huge company, but it is a private company. It's not government owned at all. The president has zero business saying, oh, you need to fire these players for saying something that they have, the right to say, or doing something they have the right to do. So that on its own, separate from the race issue, by the way, 70% of the players are obviously,
70% of players
in the NFL are black, and they're
Nazis,
protesting police brutality.
The Nazis were
which
very nice people.
is racially motivated.
But these guys are sons of bitches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very obvious, and it's
Yeah.
not surprising, at all.
I mean, so do you guys think that Donald Trump even really cares about this issue?
No.
Or do you
No.
think that this is just like a complete political strategy?
He's just trying to be divisive,
Yeah.
right?
Distracting.
I was just say, I don't know if he's really that smart. So I'm going to say that he likes to mix things up because he likes to stir the pot. He's stirring the pot all the time because it gives him the attention that he wants.
That's true.
And he thinks that he's satisfying his little angry base.
Right, he's serving his
And
base.
he thinks he's serving his people by saying, I promised you I was going to mix things up. And he doesn't really care how he does it. He's never cared how he's done it. He's done it in New York. He'll do it to the day he dies. He's just mixing stuff up because he thinks it's fun.
And he's also
And again,
distracting
he's-
from
Yeah.
I also see
being
I
investigated.
mean,
there's
you might
that
be right,
side where he
yes.
really doesn't care, and that's just whatever he felt like railing against on a whim that morning when he was on Twitter. Or I can also see the other side where he's actually pretending to do that, and what if he's actually, masterminding and he's stirring this up on purpose to ignore the Russia thing? Because he
That's
always
what I
stirs
see.
up some random thing.
See, yeah, that's always
It's
the
very
two
conveniently
competing.
timed.
Yeah.
Like,
And
Or
I
There's a
think
lot.
he
There's a
keeps
lot that's
the-
been happening
it-
with that
Not to take
investigation
the
this week.
attention
Yeah.
away from Russia doesn't take the investigation off.
It kind of
Takes
does.
the
If there's
media
not
away.
as much
Just
pressure
takes
and
the media
media,
From the
You
public.
scroll through the news,
I think
like,
he's brilliant
you see-
personally.
No, but that investigation
I
is still
do.
ongoing.
He's really
That's
he's got us
really
completely
brilliant.
distracted on something that he doesn't go to. He keeps the bar moving. He's discredited the liberal base. It's to the point where they're just so much trying to yell about everything that nobody pays attention to them anymore.
Mhm.
Yes, but he lies all the time, and that's how he's discredited.
Has that hurt him in any
Yeah,
the election
people
yet?
who support him don't
We
care.
can't impeach him for it, because no. But he's a very good marketer. I would agree. He's a very good marketer. He knows how to get the media to play with him, and I get angry at
Manipulate.
Well, the question I have is like, how smart is Donald Trump, right? I think that there's a lot of theories out there of like Donald Trump playing like this like awesome, six-dimensional like chess game where he's being inflammatory here to go ahead and deflect from this issue while raising his base up and whatnot. And like all I've gotten from Donald Trump over the past like 2 decades is an individual who has honed his like marketing sense, and he is an instigator, but he's also like at this stage in his life where I feel like he's on autopilot. I feel like this is like just stuff that he's been doing for years and years and
Mastered it,
years.
which makes
So
him a
he's
master.
mastered it. That makes
So,
him smart, right?
but the thing, though, well, there's a difference between like cognitively like doing something and intentionally doing something, and you just having a certain mentality and personality about you. And I have a feeling more of like Donald Trump is more of like on autopilot at this point. I feel like it's nothing for him to instigate and act the way he acts. So I don't know. I'm not sure that he is like that brilliant about
So-
it.
so let's-
I think he's a puppet. That they're all just
But the,
controlling from the back.
What do you say? Hold on a second. What do you say,
I think
Kwaku?
he's good at distracting, but I think I watched the speech and I literally think in this case it just came into his head, so it came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
I mean that's another thing. Like it was like, oh, this is a great crowd. Well, anyway, the NFL, I literally think it just
You can tell by the
comes
tone of
into
his
his
voice
head,
when he's.
it comes out
If
of
you
his mouth
read
and he
his
never
speeches,
backs
they're
down.
even more horrifying because it's like, wow, where is he going with this? Like,
Yeah,
reading
he's
it sounds
just-
even more.
So
If
you
it comes in
think,
here, it comes out.
so in that
It's
case,
just-
you think he really thinks that?
I
That
think
he really does
Right,
think
maybe-
that,
Oh yeah.
I
that
think,
these football players should not be kneeling.
I think
What
he
he's
looked at the
doing-
crowd
Oh, okay.
that
He's
he was
talk-
speaking in front of, and it just he seems like one of those people that will say anything to
Okay.
get a cheer because it helps his ego.
Well, I think
And he looked at the crowd, came into his head, it had to come out of his mouth, and he'll never back down.
What
And
he's
he'll defend
doing
it,
is
yeah.
he's talking to his base, Alabama. He's in Alabama.
Sure, yeah,
So
that's
Alabama
fine.
is what? If you know anything about Alabama, very conservative,
Sure.
Bible Belt. So he knew like God and country and flag. So he put them all three together. Hey, I'm going to talk something about the flag.
And that's
And he did it purposely because he was talking to an Alabama flag, Bible building people.
He wanted them to cheer for him.
Well, hold on. Savannah, what you got to say?
The
Okay.
one thing that turned people off is when you call people son of. He's a president of the United States. You don't call people son of a bitch.
Sure.
He's
never
can say it,
presidential. Anything that comes
but
out
as
of
a
his mouth is
president,
not presidential.
I mean, kids are listening to this.
Sure.
I mean, and that's what boggles the mind how anybody could ever,
Well, he also said
I don't know.
a lot of other
I mean,
disgusting things during the election, and
I was
he
gonna
still
say,
won.
I wasn't surprised.
So it's like it doesn't matter anymore in this day.
Well, hold on, guys.
It's
Like, Savannah,
irrelevant.
what did you want to say?
Okay, go ahead.
I like what you said about the marketing himself
Mm-hmm.
because he's always been the kind of businessman where he just wants PR and it's not like any attention is good attention.
Yeah.
So he's just in this mode of like building his space and marketing himself and getting all this, just saying what people are gonna like. So in that way, he's doing that on purpose. Everything else is just like happening. And I think a good indicator of that is like, they say even Kim Jong Un is like, we could almost laugh at him like, oh my gosh, he's crazy. But really, everything he's doing is very calculated. Whereas Trump is really like a wild card. Like, if you read things about his aides and his advisors and other people in the White House are always like, you gotta keep him, like, what's he gonna do? They get nervous. There was one meeting, they were like, how can we keep him away from Twitter? Like,
Well, you saw the picture of John Kelly, right, at the UN.
the North Korea thing.
The reporters found his watch or saw his watch and they timed it, and that was during the speech. It wasn't before and after, so that you see his chief of
You can
staff
see him
just
go like this.
Yeah.
and it's
Head in his hand.
Very
When he
telling.
goes off script,
it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
When he's on script, it's okay, but
you can tell
he
when
goes
he's
off
reading the
script.
teleprompter.
Sure.
His
But
tone.
it sounds explore the
Sure.
idea that he's actually more.
So let's put it all together. Let's take it. Let's pretend like he's on autopilot at this point. Let's pretend like these words just come to him. I'm a programmer. A lot of times, I'm just able to flow out code. I'm not really thinking about it. I may improv a little bit. That's actually a sign of intellectualism and having learned the job.
That makes him an
That's
extremely
marketing
dangerous
and
person,
PR.
then.
Well, no, he's not like a moron. I mean,
So
Well,
he's the
smarter than
brand.
your
You're
average
right.
person.
And everybody's underestimated to the point. How do you think he's destroyed? I'm going to say he's destroyed the Democratic Party. They're confused. They're debating on whether to go even more extreme or to start compromising on conservative values.
Mm-hmm.
He way got underestimated by the Republicans, took out 16 of them when everybody was laughing at him.
Yes.
And then took out Hillary Clinton, who was supposed to be this walk-in president. He's brilliant.
Sure.
All right, so I
He's
would
smarter than the
counter
average person.
I don't think that he did that alone in isolation. I think that we have a tendency to attribute all these factors to one person. I mean, there's not just this one guy sitting in this control room with all these levers making this stuff happen. I think that Donald Trump had a talent, and his talent is marketing himself. And I believe there was a concerted effort and team that kind of wound up the monkey and pointed it in a direction and just let it march. And they chose the right direction. The right direction being, a base of individuals,
The one that could win the electoral college.
who can win
That's all
the
you have to
electoral
say.
college. So that's kind of my opinion
What
on
was
it.
his introduction into politics?
The birther
Whole
movement.
Birther movement.
Yeah.
That was a test. I look into
And,
shit.
and
This
I
works.
really think it's just the reason why he was able to throw everyone into such a level of confusion is because he lowered the bar more than anyone would be willing to
You're right.
go.
And he scooped
So
up
it's
all
not
those-
that he
Yeah.
did anything brilliant, but if you're willing to lie and cheat and insult people on a personal level when everyone else was trying to
BPC.
fight,
Mhm.
Hillary was talking about the issues. She was trying to talk about how would I make money or save money, and he's like, and he would just say anything. He would say anything, and I don't even think the Republican guys would go that low.
And to
There's
that
no way
level,
Ted
I
Cruz
think
would get that level.
I think I'd actually contradict what you said about it being a team. Everyone that he's put on his team has tried to tell him, come back to the base, follow the rules. He fires them, he goes on and marches to his own
Even
drum.
Brandon, he was like, we thought he was extremely crazy, and
Right.
and he didn't even.
Even he didn't make it.
All right.
Remember, this messaging is not new. After Barack Obama won the election in 2008, they said the same thing about the Republican Party, that it's outdated. It's, ready to implode. Things are over. The Democrats came in and swept the Senate and the House at that time. I do believe somebody said that they blamed the media mainly for a lot of this here. And I do think that the media has a large part in like constructing these narratives of either one person being some just born savant genius of a politician, or there being maybe some super long game being played here. When I think a lot of this stuff is really the result of just the stars aligning. You got the right person at the right moment, the right mix of stuff, and boom, you got a Donald Trump sitting in office. It does happen that way.
A lot of underlying things that people were thinking and mad about that's now out in the open.
Yeah, like having a black president for 8 years. People weren't very happy about that, but they couldn't say anything.
But these Nazis and KKK people,
they hated every minute of it.
Around, and they've been in their online groups for a long time, but now they're like coming out.
Because it's okay now.
But they were already there.
And I hate to make the Hitler analogy, but he was a laughing stock.
Yeah, he was.
They thought he was a
It's like,
joke.
he'll never win the primaries. He'll never win the
That
election.
guy's
And then it's
crazy.
like, well, I don't know. Maybe he'll win in 2020.
Yeah, and how did that happen?
Yeah. So let me ask Angie a question. So Angie, do you think the NFL owners and the owners of the teams care about what these players are protesting?
I haven't thought about that. I thought that when I saw this kind of coming into effect, I thought the only appropriate response is for the whole team to do it together and the owners. So I think they stood up and did the right thing. I'm not sure if they've thought about the issues that these players are really trying to bring attention to, but for sure, they know that I'm going to ally with my players and support them as a team. I don't know. Have they talked about black issues? I mean, has any of that been?
No, it's been about locking arms and unity.
But
my opinion is basically some owners. Jerry Jones, I don't think was sincere about it.
But he did it.
Yeah, the Cowboys owner.
Cowboy owner. But he, privately, he said he wanted his players not to do it.
Exactly.
Then he had a meeting, and they said, "Well, Neil," but when the anthem played, we were standing up.
Yeah.
Right, he found a nice, happy meeting.
Yeah, but Jerry Jones, because of Dallas and because of that, his Texas. I mean, they love that flag country, love it or leave it. I mean, that's what it is.
What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, that's how I.
About the owners?
Yeah.
Given that the majority of NFL owners are white men,
Right.
they just can't grasp exactly what the players are protesting. Starting with Colin Kaepernick and all the people that have come out now after Donald Trump's remarks. I do think that unfortunately, there is some benefit to them allying themselves with their players, and that's kind of why they did it. I don't necessarily think they're truly now these revolutionaries who are we're going to protest because of what the president said. It's more in their best interest right now just to align with their players, and so I don't see it as really sincere.
But if you're an owner in a blue-collar city, I guarantee you those owners want to.
What's their benefit?
It has a lot of difference where the owner is.
The benefit.
Is. You're a blue-collar team like New York, Philly, Chicago, Detroit. I guarantee that owner's sided with. But if you're in the South, I think it's a little bit different.
I don't think it's either. None of the owners are truly for it. They've caved in because it was between that or getting rid of their entire team. Who was the gentleman? Who was the gentleman who originally did it?
Colin Kaepernick.
So Colin, he went up as free agent. The northern people that you're talking about, they didn't hire him. He's unemployable as one of the best players in the game.
Exactly. Could have let them.
I'm sorry, Matt. What are you saying? Say that again.
The owner didn't have to go out there. Jones didn't have to go out on the field. He could have stayed upstairs and let them do what they
That
want.
might have been read.
But he went out there with them.
But he's
And
doing
took
it
a knee.
against Trump's
Right, I
offense,
know, and
not in line with standing for black protest.
Yeah.
It's more,
But
it's
it's
more
also-
the fact that it wasn't
About-
Trump's right to say anything
Exactly.
than it was
Right.
because It's the
Well,
right that the team
reinforces
members
the-
could fight for what they believe is right.
Right.
So
There's like
they're
multiple
not,
issues
yeah,
now.
they're not worrying about
Black Lives Matter. They're worried
not so
about
much in fact that Trump shouldn't
that
say
you
anything.
can't tell us.
Yeah, he doesn't
It's a
want to
money
tell what
issue,
to
right?
do.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a money issue.
No,
These
It's a money issue.
no,
these
fans
coaches
don't-
do not. I'm sorry. These team
Wait,
owners
are fans
do not care.
Are fans? There are certain fans that
Some
are
fans are
boycotting.
gonna boycott.
Yeah.
You see them burning
Yeah.
their stuff.
So
they're
it's a
not
no-win
gaining-
situation.
they're
There'll
not
be fans
gaining
It's a
that go
monetary
either
issue.
way.
No, they're losing fans.
That's what I'm saying. For these owners, it's a money issue. They can't. They do not want to see their audience, the people who consume their product, which is entertainment and football, to become divisive and not show up to the games, not buy the tickets. So to me, these owners have a choice. It's like we can just sit here and try to let this play out and roll the dice and hope that at the end of the day it just blows over. People still come to our games. We still make the sales, and we move on for this. Or people do start abandoning the sport. This thing blows up into something bigger. We have an awful season where people just don't come out to the games. We have protesters at our games preventing people coming into the games, and we lose a bunch of money. I think for these owners, it's a money issue, because if they cared, they would have been out 2 years ago when Colin Kaepernick first started doing this and first started putting it out there. I mean, this was in the media for a long time, and none of these owners said anything until finally it hit the level where Donald Trump decided to go ahead and take it and tool it in a political fashion. I think it's a money issue for these guys. That's my opinion.
I will
Andrew?
say though, even for me, like when they first started kneeling, I understood. I heard Obama speak about it, and I thought he was excellent. How he pointed to both sides. He was like, protesting the flag. That's a hard thing to do because the people who fought for our country. So Obama, and I sort of agreed with Obama. I saw both sides out of it. But now, because of the message has become more clear to me, I don't know, through radio or NPR or whatever, I feel like this really is and Black Lives Matter or Black issues really are important, and maybe white people need to get on board with this and hear about it.
They
It's
won't
something
even
we've
see
just-
it. They refuse to see it as that. That's why it's all about the flag and being a patriot. They won't even go
It's
there.
never about racism, right?
Yeah, it's not about racism.
It's about anything
It's about
else. Yeah.
disrespecting the flag.
It's the flag. It's
They
about
won't
the
even
nation.
go there. They
It's
won't
about
come
everything
to
else.
the table.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't hear
exactly.
the other side. Because I've started to learn more of the other side of this kneeling thing, maybe in the last year, because I learned that it was more about, for example, people who have the voice speaking up for people who
Right,
don't have the
exactly.
voice.
Exactly.
I thought that was amazing.
How much louder? How much
Yeah.
louder do we have to be,
Maybe
though?
these
Exactly.
people
There's
don't
no
know
louder
about
than
that.
this.
Let me
See,
tell you-
They don't understand.
And
it.
take the
From
knee.
that
It's
See,
reverential. It's
I didn't look
respectful.
I didn't look at it as a Black Lives thing. I looked at it, of course, the national anthem and the flag. I didn't look at it as a racial thing like Kaepernick. I don't think it had nothing to do with that. I really believe that.
Why was he doing that?
I think he
Doesn't
got-
like
Because
the flag?
the national anthem, to a lot of people, it means
It's
something.
such a, yeah.
Like that. For me, I fought in Vietnam.
Right.
I understand a lot of things. Just like when that Pittsburgh Steel, when that Ranger came out by himself.
Right.
I mean, I maybe shouldn't have done that,
No, we
but
should
I can
have.
understand
He has
that.
it right now.
Yeah,
And he
did
was,
you hear what
they were
happened?
just
He
reacting.
apologized.
I think that whole thing was because of flag, the national anthem, and support our veterans. I don't think it was about the racial thing. I really don't.
Colin Kaepernick said it himself.
He said doesn't mean it's true.
No, wait,
I mean, I'm
why
just
do you
saying.
think- No. Colin Kaepernick took a knee.
way before
That's because of the black
That's what
the
we're
police were
saying.
shooting blacks. Had nothing to do with the national anthem. Had
Right,
nothing to do with
yeah.
the flag.
Right.
He was doing it because he was police shooting black people.
And
on the
that's
streets.
why the
That was
others
his
are doing
issue.
it. That's
That
why
was
the
his
others
issue.
are
It
doing
wasn't
it.
because
I
of
think
flag.
we were getting the
I think he's
opposite.
already-
Exactly.
So what-
Yeah.
but-
So you're arguing our point. You're arguing our point. All right.
No, but when
Yeah.
he made
Keep
it,
arguing our point.
but when he made it a flag issue,
when Trump made
You're talking about
that
Trump
was a
making
whole
it.
different story.
Okay, you're talking
Right.
about Trump. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, when he made it the national anthem, I don't
But
think
that's
it's a
how a
black
lot
issue.
of people see it.
Oh, that's
Like
the
on my
only way.
I know that.
Yeah,
And
on
they're
my
wrong.
Facebook feed, I see people are like so pissed off about this
And what
flag.
gets- what-
Right, I mean,
What drives me crazy is guys like him fought so that you can take a knee without.
Exactly.
And you see,
Exactly.
you see
You're
more. I
allowed.
see more of that on talk about Facebook. You know, I fought in the war, blah, 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 and I fought so you could take the knee.
Exactly. That's how I feel.
So when it comes down to it, and a lot of people said this on Facebook, you know, the flag does not represent. You fought for the flag. I'm not
I
taking that
understand,
away
sir.
from you.
He didn't
But
fight for the flag. He fought for our
you fought for the country, but that's how
understand.
I understand veterans see when they see the flag. That's I fought for
Yeah.
that flag. I fought
Yes,
for
but in
rural
1989, they shouldn't have allowed you to wear it as a bikini then. But they
exactly.
did.
And that, but my
They
point
did.
is,
So now we know it's not about.
but my point is, people shouldn't be looking at it like that. You're
No, we're enthusiastic.
What were her decibels on there?
Oh, I don't even want to look. I'm pretty sure that was pretty loud. That was
The
pretty
people
loud.
in rural America, people in Kansas, Montana, they believe in a flag, country, and God.
It's
Right.
That's
like
what-
a sacred thing.
and that's
I mean,
patriotic, and
in
anything
middle
else is
America, that's
not.
what it is. The Reds say what they
Yeah,
believe
they-
in, and they're
they
offended
behind
when
their
someone
Jesus.
doesn't stand up.
Kwaku, what were you about to say?
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I feel like it's become kind of a straw man argument to deflect from what they're actually protesting
Yeah.
about. Like, I've been to NFL
That's
games.
exactly what's
And I swear,
happening.
first of all, before 2009, the players weren't even out on the field for the
Right.
national anthem.
Right.
I've been there,
It was
people
a
are
money
drinking
thing.
popcorn, using the restroom,
Oh,
going here
really?
and there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and now all of a sudden it's become like this thing. I just
It's a
think
ritual.
it's a fake argument to
Right.
deflect from the actual
Really?
Tell him.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
it always is. It's never about race. It's about this.
Yeah, it's
We'll always
about-
latch on to something.
It was a marketing thing.
Yeah,
Start them
it's like-
trying them out to do
are
that.
racist and just flat won't admit. And this is the
Yes.
tricky
Yeah.
argument
Who's
that
they?
don't
Well,
like
I
it.
think
She
they're
just said the
A
whole
lot
thing.
of them don't
You
admit
just
it
said
to
the whole thing,
themselves.
right?
Well, who's they? That's a good question.
These
Honestly think
people
that
who
it's
are
about-
making that argument.
They honestly think
Yeah.
it's about patriotism.
I agree
It's
with
really
that.
not.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
I
so
think
you're
that's
saying
the
they
whole thing.
do honestly think
I honestly don't think
They
that
think.
they think of themselves as racist.
Right, but they
They've
are.
gotten this
But they are.
mindset.
But they are.
Okay, but
Okay.
they don't see it as a race thing. They see it as somebody
Because they're white.
disrespecting. I get it.
Right.
Because they-
But they
Yes.
are disrespecting the flag and therefore their country. They've gotten this ingrained and they believe the narrative that this is.
right.
So that's what they're going against.
But
They're,
he
they don't
is
think it's
saying
racist.
is, but they are racist.
They are,
and they don't realize
because these
it.
are the same people
yeah.
that are saying, "Well, Black Lives Matter, but maybe they shouldn't act like thugs in the
The moment you
street
say
when
but,
the people
your
are
whole-
getting shot."
Right.
Which is
So why
racist
are Black people
rationale.
always complaining because they got all this other stuff?
It's the, I'm not racist, but
And I'm not a black
There's
person,
one
so I can't say
history
that
of this
I
country,
know.
and that history is of white supremacy enslaving black
Yeah,
people for
and
400 years.
I believe that's a white flag. When they look at that flag, it's a white
And
flag.
and maybe they're threatened because if I'm in the advantage, do I want to let
Exactly.
a black woman
It's
be my
inconvenient.
competition? Not
I
really.
think that's
Think about
an
it, if you're-
overgeneralization of a group, which is ironically what you're trying to
I don't
protest
know. I'm
against.
seeing these. This is why I'm
Yeah, but this one's
waking up
true.
right now because I'm seeing these
Think
things.
about it. If you've
You're not
lived in a place of
listening.
privilege your whole life, equality to you means
Yes.
dropping down.
Thank you.
And that's a
I
huge
don't
threat
want
to
you take
people.
my advantage.
So
I don't want
That's
you
why
to compete with
people-
me
that's
for a job.
American history right there in a few words.
And we got to be careful. We have to realize that when people say like they, I don't think that they're literally talking about every single person in a demographic.
No.
As more of they're talking about a certain a certain
idea.
or
People have those ideas.
cultural idea or belief that is shared by maybe a majority or a large segment. Because there's a lot of people that go out there and say like, well, not all. And that's true, not all. But I don't think that. But that's not. But that's not what we're talking
I
about.
have friends that I would honestly say that if they're working with people of color or different cultures or whatever, they like those people individually. When that group as a whole says, listen, I'm Puerto Ricans and Puerto Ricans want to have a Puerto Rican Day parade, they might say, why do the Puerto Ricans have to have a parade? Why
Yeah.
can't it just be
Or-
a New York City parade?
and then it's like, I'm not racist. I have a black friend. It's like,
Yeah.
Well, no, they like their Puerto Rican friends. They live next to them. They go get Puerto Rican food, but they just don't think Puerto
Or
Ricans should
like-
celebrate a Puerto Rican parade.
Or something
I
even
agree.
more serious, like I'm black. I noticed black people are getting shot at a higher ratio. Can we address that? This
For whatever
is a
reason
serious.
it could be, right?
Yeah.
At least have the conversation.
And
So I'll
It's
agree
a
with you that
serious-
some of that happens, but it's on the level. I really think we're a group of intellectuals that are taking a lot of people that don't think so much. They're given the narrative and accept the narrative that this is a patriotic issue.
So you
These
don't think
people are
racism
going
exists?
against the flag. I absolutely believe racism
Okay.
exists. I'd
No,
be
no, no,
stupid
but
to
you
think
keep saying
otherwise.
you're giving
But
them
I'm
a-
saying most people are not on that level.
But
They've been given a narrative. They've been told by people that they let think for them or whatever that this is about the flag, and these people against the flag. They're like, well, I'm for the flag, so
Sure.
screw those people.
Those people aren't blameless because
Yeah,
of
that's a
that.
good question, guys. Is like how deep do you
They're
think
so
like
responsible.
the average person like really thinks about these issues? I mean,
Think about it when you bring it up and they get all worked up about it, though.
Well, yeah.
That's true.
No, I'm actually
people have
surprised
strong
by it.
opinions about stuff they don't think about.
I see what you're saying. All they're thinking
Yeah.
about is
The flag.
If you- But if you grew up on a farm and you grew up in, like I said, small communities, a flag is everything.
Mm.
The parades, the high school, the people marching, parades, the flag, the song,
well, what about freedom of speech?
pledge allegiance, all that.
Right.
Yeah, but
What
And
does
it-
it mean?
But,
I feel that
but
way
in
more.
New York and Philly, I mean, it's not as pronounced. It's not
That's the
as.
South.
There are regional differences. I get
rural
what you're saying.
areas of the
I know, but
country.
those
It's
people
really
in the rural
got to be
areas
pushed.
are not stupid. They're not stupid. Yes, they have a tradition. They like their tradition. They feel good about the flag. They love America. But they should be thinking about what it stands for.
Right.
what their
Remove the word
grandfathers
stupid and
did.
replace it with simple. They are simple,
Yeah,
and they
right.
just don't go out of that level. They're given a narrative. They keep to it. They're saying the flag is our country and a representative. I love the flag. Hey, why are you disrespecting our flag? That's all
It's
they're
as
thinking
simple as
about.
But why is it so
Exactly.
hard? Why is it so hard to be loyal to like respecting and loving each other? They're not seeing it
Right.
as representative of what we see it representative of.
Exactly.
We see it representative of, oh, you're my brother. Like we live in this country.
Democracy.
We're all.
And
Yeah.
that's
They're
where the
seeing it
whole
as
problem
just
is.
the idea of this flag of like we're the best
Well,
country in the
well,
world
I mean,
kind
to
of
me,
thing,
when
and
I
it
see the
transcends
flag,
for
and I
them
see them
human
kneeling, that
connection.
flag means he can do that.
Let me bring up this. Like, well, okay, let's look at the reasons behind why these people think so simply about these issues. And I think there's a simple solution to that. And the solution is that, well, if you are in rural, Tennessee or Nebraska and whatnot, and you live in a pretty homogeneous community where most of the people around you are white,
Yeah.
you don't, your
Anglo-Saxon
entire life,
customs.
you don't deal with issues really maybe
Exactly.
of race and of different cultures and dynamics and clashing.
Especially
So
Christian.
you have a different like
So
rank of
Perspective.
priority of
Yeah,
values,
that's
right?
priority.
So like maybe what you value the most up here is maybe a sense of nationalism and that type of unity. And maybe you don't prioritize these racial issues because you just don't experience them in your life, you know?
Exactly.
So, you know, I think that maybe that's where it comes from.
People protest because you don't know what it's like.
Right.
Let them do
Why
whatever
don't you
they
Right.
want.
like
How does that
Yeah.
translate into?
How does it
Well,
always
because
come back to
Respecting
me?
another
people
human
think
being.
that their lives is like everybody else's sometimes, you know? It's
We can
like,
recognize another human, right?
yeah, they say that, I think these people say to themselves, like, look, me and my community, we get along just fine. We ain't arguing and doing and talking all this stuff. We are, I can go to my neighbors and, we can go ahead and discuss these issues and stuff. I don't see all these problems with race.
Right.
I don't see it around me. So that means that it can't be as big as an issue as you're making it to be, So that I think that's the argument.
I
Yeah.
grew up
be
in
aware.
Philly, and I saw racism all my life. Also, not only because I'm a Jew,
Mhm.
and anti-Semitism is just as bad as what's happening with. They're not killing Jews, but it's still a very big problem in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
But it's never mentioned in any racial talk. It's always blacks and whites.
Jews
But
would
it
pass.
doesn't. If you talk about race, you got to
They're
talk about.
white.
You got to talk about race in general, against an American Indian, against Jews, blacks. You should be talking about the whole subject rather than one isolated area.
unit. Yeah, so maybe the idea is that secretly they're like, man, all these groups are racist, So if we're going to talk about it, we're going to have to talk about it in a general sense, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of that out there. I was online the other day and I was looking at some of the hate mail that Martin Luther King got when he was out there and stuff like that. And a lot of arguments you hear today, you see the exact duplicate in a lot of these letters. And one of the primary ones you see over and over and over and over again is pretty much what you're bringing up, is that, hey, you're not looking at your people. Black people are this way too. Black people are violent too. You are criticizing white people, but you refuse to criticize your own people. There's this idea of like hypocrisy. There's this like fundamental belief that all these groups are secretly racist out here, and it ain't just me or it ain't just white people. That's like that's a big argument that we see, and it hasn't gone away, and I think it's even more so now.
And the argument ignores the history of the United States.
Yeah, completely ignores it.
The most cruel form of slavery that at least the Western world has seen. Mm-hmm. That argument ignores that completely, and the lasting effects of that on all black people in this country today. That's why the argument doesn't really hold up.
Yeah.
But I understand what people are saying. But
well, I was also thinking not only that, but also the fact that everyone is an immigrant because you came over and stole the land from somebody, and then but you don't like those people, right?
Right.
Oh, and if you look,
those things they changed, but the discrimination against blacks and Jews has never changed.
Right.
Never changed. The things about the Irish, about the Italians, that was the 1900s, the 1800s, and it changed and evolved. People accept it. But the Jews and blacks always been a center of racial,
Well, maybe it's a part of the change.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we're doing these things.
I do feel that way. It's coming to such a head. It's almost like, well, maybe this is a good
Well,
thing.
I keep thinking, it's like we had a black president, and it was like a big deal. It was the first one. It's like, wow, maybe we're getting a little bit
I thought we were
less.
progressing.
It's the pendulum. So we had like progress, and then there's always like that swing back. But I feel like having all this stuff come to the surface, because like I said, the KKK and the Nazis, they've been in America talking online for a long time.
Oh yeah.
But it's bringing them out, so it's like, okay, maybe now we have to deal with it.
So let me ask you guys this. I actually thought about this. Did you guys see the cotton issue? The like Hobby Lobby with the cotton stick?
Yeah.
No.
So all right, Dave, go ahead and tell them the story about this.
Okay, so it's a basic like cotton stick representation. There's like just a stick coming out
With a thing of cotton. Right?
Yeah.
Like
You've seen it on
decoration, 'cause
Facebook.
they're pretty.
Beyond that, I don't know the story. I've seen it. I know that it's taken as a racist.
Well, okay, y'all buckle up. Listen to this right here. All right. So Hobby Lobby sells random crap you put around your houses, like little maybe talk pieces and stuff like that. Yeah. And one item that they sold was this kind of artistic box. And inside this box is a piece of stick with little cotton hanging off of it. It's obviously like a stalk from a cotton plant.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's little cotton balls. So a black lady takes a picture of this, right? And then she posts on Facebook saying, I cannot believe that Hobby Lobby is selling stalks of cotton in their store. This is like one of the most racist things I think I've ever seen. What are they trying to tell me? Blah, 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 blah. So that's pretty...
Am I missing?
That's far-fetched.
That's why I was unable to understand.
Right.
The way it was marketed.
No. All it was a box
Okay.
with a little piece of cotton, a stick of cotton in it, right? And so she walked by and she goes, like, no, takes a picture, puts it on Facebook saying that they need to go ahead and take that down. This is the more interesting thing about this story to me, is that that was posted, and of course, the online world just immediately gravitates towards it. Thousands of comments and go ahead and get marked. And after that, media companies began to pick it up. And the type of media entities that picked it up tells you a lot. Breitbart, Fox News, what is the Independent, like Republican Journal, something like that, National Review. They loved the story. It was so juicy. Why was it juicy? Because it perpetuates this narrative of like...
Racism's not real.
See, it's this huge overreaction.
Right.
It's this overreaction out there. Look at this lady. She's out there talking about this stick of cotton is racist.
When people say they don't like Black Lives Matter, it's another one of those things where they don't want to actually talk about the racism. They want to point out those particular Black Lives Matter advocates who are like that lady and a little bit overboard, overlooking the whole fact that like Black Lives Matter is about that Black Lives Matter, and it's like you can point out the crazy people on every side.
Right.
But I think it does a good job of putting up the narrative. Like I was telling Angie before, I'm getting sick of the liberals getting angry at everything on my Facebook page, because that makes up a lot of my Facebook group and all of that, and it just explodes. And they've gone from a respectable group to, because they yell about everything, things like racial matters or whatnot, getting completely washed away. Their narrative is no longer relevant. So if you can kind of make it clear that they do these crazy things and add to the stuff they actually do, it completely disregards them. Suddenly we have Trump as president in 2020.
Well, let me ask this.
Shut your mouth.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Republican Party is going to end.
Yeah, they would have.
Disagree with you, but gonna use that for another topic.
You said they, as in like those
All
liberals
liberals.
are, starting to complain too much. So it's like maybe we need to make an effort to distance ourselves from like the sane ones, and then the ones who are going over the deep end, like there's cotton, you're wearing cotton.
Yeah.
You wearing it?
That's
So
not,
there's an effort by conservative media to take these instances here and broad stroke them across a liberal political spectrum, and pump those issues and make their base feel like that's what liberals are talking about, is that there's a cotton stalk and Hobby Lobby. That's the fight that people with liberal mindsets are trying to fight for. And so it's like, where does it come from, right? Because you do have a point, David, that, hey, I do see a lot of, progressive and liberal media out there, mostly online, that talks about a lot of identity politics issues. And, you see them all over your Facebook feed, and you see that stuff everywhere. But it's like, well, is this stuff like being pumped out there too much? Is there an oversaturation of it? Or are we just affected by this other narrative out there saying that maybe people who are progressive are talking about it too much?
People now make fun of SJWs, social justice warriors, and they'll point out these kind of cotton stick situations and say, like, oh, look at them, they think they're like...
Yeah, but the liberals don't have a single line of message. They're not very clear in what they're saying.
That's true.
And I think that while the Fox News is going to go out and stir this up, it's like people saying, oh, the football players make too much money, so they shouldn't be able to, protest. As if that's somehow related, right? It's not related, but, they'll show a soldier and he makes $35,000 and this football player makes $1 million. So what? What's the point? There is no point, but they have them face to face, and people say, "Oh my God, that's a problem."
Yeah.
But the liberals are not coming out and saying, "Look, we stand for not lying. We stand for, reasonable use of money. We stand for social issues." You never hear. I don't hear Nancy Pelosi or any of those people saying, "This is what I actually stand for."
Right.
What you got is burning.
That's
Yeah,
true.
the one thing,
True as hell.
The one
right
thing
there.
the liberals, I always thought I was a liberal, but when you hear liberals drowning out free speech in colleges, that bothers me.
Right.
I don't care.
I don't know if that
I don't
speech
care
is
what
all
your-
organic, though.
But I don't care.
There's
what your-
these conservative organizations go around and pay people to show up to these liberal universities to cause a scene.
But also
They
it's
say that's
students
what
also.
liberals
It's also the liberal students in those universities. They don't want to hear that right-wing
Bill
bullshit.
And
Ben-
BTW
They don't
and
want
Democrats
a
do
right-wing-
that just as much
Hey,
as
it's a
Republicans.
freedom of speech.
Yeah.
That's a free.
So it's a political tactic,
Well,
I mean,
well,
you
I
can't
think-
say that that's just like some organic thing where
I'm going to argue that most of them are organic. They may add to the voice, but we do
Milo,
have-
whatever
we
his
do
name
have
is,
a-
showing up to a certain university, that's organic. That's like somebody just showing up wanting to go ahead and have a civil debate at a quote unquote liberal university.
But he
No,
has a
that's
right
not.
to. He has a right to.
That is being done
that
to
is the-
incite a
That
certain
was
type
always
of.
the thing
Well,
about
yeah,
politics.
yes,
but that's okay that it's out there. It's just like it's
It's a
okay that the
debate.
Nazis walk down the street. It's not okay for the people who want to yell at the Nazis to start throwing things at them and punching them in the face. They have a right to walk down the street.
Exactly.
Do I like a Nazi? No, I don't like a Nazi. But he has a
What do you
right
think
to
a
walk
German?
down the
have a
street.
What do you think a
right to
German
do it.
citizen would say
player
about
had
that?
a right to stand. He wanted to stand for the flag. He should have never apologized for it because it was important to him.
It's just
I'm
as
all right
important
with
for them
him.
taking
I
it.
I don't.
What's your
I'm
question?
completely on a different side of that.
I
But
am
Kyle,
too, because
yeah.
if you look at, let's take another a good country or a good example country that had an issue with a really severe violent right wing, and in Germany today, it is illegal to do a Nazi salute. It is illegal to dress like Hitler. It is illegal to do say certain things. They have agreed as a people. They have agreed as a people to say we're going to actually limit free speech.
Limit free speech.
That's what it is. Because look at what happened when we didn't. So is it really like we talk about free speech so much that it's about just like this concept of saying whatever you want, but it's not just about saying whatever you want. It's about believing and possibly in the future acting on those beliefs. So exactly. So it doesn't just.
Yeah, but until
I'm with you on that.
What do you mean until you do it? It's already happened.
And we have different laws on free speech and hate speech, right? So there's we have to distinguish what's just free speech and what is hate speech. And
but isn't that hate speech? Walking down the street.
People are also willing to protect the right of free speech.
Yelling blood and soil and stuff.
Yeah,
that's hate speech.
But don't let Jews replace us or whatever they were saying.
That was great. I was like, you should think I could.
Yeah, but like the KKK and stuff, they're allowed to do all their things.
I think a big part of the problem is that our politicians have for generations have been trying to use these ideological extremes to their benefit in the political arena and letting it just exist there. They don't want to ban it. They don't want to outlaw certain types of speech that they know that eventually leads to violent acts. So they just let it exist, and they try to use it whenever they can. Right now, Republicans are deciding that we want to go ahead and use that free speech of white supremacy and Nazism and all that type of stuff to shore up support in our debate.
That's why the ACLU, which is not a conservative base, always support the Klan marching.
I don't support that at all.
I know, but I'm just saying, they believe strictly the freedom of speech. They take away, they take away freedom of speech.
They're wrong, bro.
Okay, well, I'm wrong, but that's what they stand for.
Interesting topic.
You
Understand?
might not like it, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, you can't take away freedom of speech.
I know.
I personally believe that speech that incites violence, hate, and the suppression genocide and murder of other people does not qualify as free speech. Because
great topic of discussion. So we had some police that were shut down by people who claimed to be acting as part of Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And they died. So at what point do we start ruling which groups are causing hate and causing killing?
It's easy.
Can I say Black Lives Matter?
No, slippery slope, man. That's slippery slope.
It is slippery slope. You're on the other side of that slippery slope.
Look at how liberals march, and they do the same. They don't do the exact same thing, but they have a political statement, and
we are pretending
of Bush having look like a Nazi.
You're also ignoring the context of American history.
Yeah. Bush nomination.
Well, hold on a second, Ed. We're pretending here that we can't contextualize this stuff.
Right.
That words can just be appropriated and used in any type of instance, and suddenly, this is not happening in a vacuum. And secondly, there is, I think, sufficient enough evidence out there to go ahead and label certain organizations like neo-Nazis and KKK and white supremacists. I think that there is so much evidence out there to go ahead and be able to distinguish these groups and go ahead and I think
history
and to outlaw that.
That's a horrible idea. What about the black Muslims?
Yeah,
They've killed a lot of people. Are you going to ban them too?
Again, that's happening in the context on the tail, the very tail.
You're saying that you can't make context of this stuff. I don't agree.
You're saying that you can define the First Amendment. You're saying the First Amendment right gives me the right to take a knee, gives me a right to Black Lives Matter, even though we have contextual proof that people have taken lives in the name of Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. But because people have done it over here, because these people believe in this idea.
Is the internal ideology of Black Lives Matter to kill all cops? No.
Yeah.
The internal ideology of white supremacists and the KKK is to kill all black people.
It's like you're standing
that's so, again, it's to separate all black people in a lot of the minds.
Hold on a second. We're all talking over each other for a second. Hold on a second. We're all talking over each other. Helen, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm in the KKK, and I'm standing on the platform, and I'm spouting all my hate. We all know what it means. We all know that I want all you people dead, all you Jews and you black people. I hate you. That's what it stands for, right? That's what it is.
It's a Christian or it's
That's
a
what
white.
it is, Matt. I'm not up there
It's
saying.
also Catholics too.
I believe we
it's a
should.
white.
Hold on,
Our
Ed. Hold on a second. Go ahead.
I mean, we all know I'm standing up here. I'm not here to talk about the public library system.
No,
right?
no.
I'm up there because I hate these people. I want you to
does
hate
that.
these people. And that's the whole point.
No, but that's not what they're
Is that not the wrong thing?
They're
Is that
saying
not wrong?
white supremacy, meaning I don't want them to take my job. I don't want them to be in school with me
Well,
because we have to keep our white people pure.
Keep America.
Exactly.
I don't want
Sure.
the Italian marrying the Jew because you're going to soil the water there.
Okay, so but it's hate.
but
You're
it's
saying
true.
that I don't
Exactly
see these
true.
people
But I'm not
as me.
saying you die. I'm just saying don't be in my world.
Then why were there
Yeah,
exactly.
lynchings
That's
for
the-
200 years
yeah,
after
help me here,
slavery?
help me.
Okay, so why did the black Muslims start open
but-
fire on stuff? Like it's
Because-
the same concept.
Because black people their lives have been threatened by white people.
And so,
that's what I'm
so
saying.
now you're
You
justifying
say
their
that.
killing
Justify
while saying the
your
other side is not
But
justified.
the
You're
point I
justifying
think
their
that
violence.
that he might be making is white people can make the same argument. I mean, who
Who's
people can
who's
make
defining?
any argument.
White people enslaved black people in this country. That is going to be factually true.
So that
forever,
makes
right?
it okay to
Right.
kill
I'm
You
just
can't
saying that's
justify-
factually true, right?
So,
But we're
Violence on the
talking
other
Let me-
about
side
for the
based
law.
on.
well, let me go ahead
Is
and
one
say
not
this.
wrong?
Is that I think that the line should be drawn where the speech is coming from. Who is voicing this speech? If there is a certain organization that is out there that is propagating a certain message, and that organization has had a long history of violating people's rights consistently over and over again, the height of that being murdering folks, then I think that that organization no longer should be allowed to assemble and
Have the right.
have that right. I think that there
Who
should be
makes
certain
that-
organizations, I think, that should be go ahead and
But-
outlaw.
Sorry, let Savannah go ahead.
Yeah.
She's been patient.
I think we can't, because there's so many people in every group, we can't generalize and say this group should talk, this group can't talk, because that's just so hard. So I think maybe the deciding thing could be on if it's inciting or not, because
What they're saying at the time.
I'll give some examples. If the KKK is going to gather in this closed area, they could say whatever hateful stuff they want, fine. But if they're going to do it in a public space and incite violence and incite
Yeah.
people, that's not okay.
I agree with
I
that.
mean, I don't agree with them in their own private space, but people can talk whatever they want.
I agree with that.
Okay, I can
And
agree
then
with that.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Keep it to yourself.
They've got a good point, they've got a good message. But if a few of them start protesting violently and it protests, that's not okay. But that doesn't mean the whole group should not be able to do
Right.
it. So it's like you have to deal with just people who are inciting violence.
Right.
And
Because
What-
if you look at
Well, I think that's
What-
what we deal with. That's already our law in this country.
But I think,
You understand that?
Well-
but I think some.
Yeah,
the problem
that's our
is that-
standard now.
Right.
Yeah,
What is
so
our- wait, wait,
then
what
what
is our
happened in
standard?
Charlottesville?
Describe what is our standard here? What is the standard?
Once once
Everybody
violence
can-
is incited,
Right,
yes, we
everybody's
can press
allowed-
charges, we
Right.
can take them to court,
Absolutely.
all that. That
You
is
can't
the law.
stop
Or you
it.
become the
That's the
president.
legality
Based on
right
what
there.
they
What I'm
said
saying is
before.
that maybe there needs to be a higher bar.
But this just happened.
I think there needs to be a higher bar set.
Yeah.
I think there's been enough evidence
But it
demonstrated
happened
by certain groups in
happened
the
in
United
Boston,
States
it's spoken
that
about,
those groups should be
and
outlawed.
nothing
I think there's enough. I think there's enough evidence out there to go ahead and what's the word I'm looking for? I guess ban certain
All right,
organizations
all right,
in the United
all right,
States.
wait, so let me give you an example. So then I am a
There's
white-
certain organizations.
No,
We can.
no,
We're not dumb. We can discern that.
Yeah,
But
we
no,
need
so
to
I'll
find
change
out
my name.
what is-
Huh?
I'll change my name.
You see that you're going back to the point where you're thinking like when I'm talking about the KKK in
Right, so
particular.
now I'll call
Do you
myself
believe?
something else.
But
Do you believe?
apply those same laws to somebody
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Black Panthers. They had a history of inciting violence. They've caused
They
a great
preached
deal of
about-
death. They now exist. They're around. They're a little bit more peaceful, but
Well,
they're still
well,
not.
hold on a second.
That's
Once
true.
again, you need to go ahead and look at the history and the
So now
evidence
you're asking
to
me to
that
get
claim.
into their mind.
Let's go ahead and deal with one issue at a time.
The police are also given different
I don't think the
standards.
Black Panthers is a good example.
They-
That's
It's
a
a great
horrible.
example.
That's a horrible example.
It's a wonderful example.
Let me go ahead. And,
Well, I think and I don't know all the details, but what it seems like to me is that they let different groups get away with different things. So, like, the amount that a group can go is kind of based on prejudices and if they're white or black. So, like, maybe some
Or
groups,
Christian or not.
yeah, or some like maybe a black group of black protesters does one thing, and so that's the cue for the cops to like get on that and stop it and it becomes violent. Whereas maybe they let the KKK get away with some more things like that other march before they stepped in, like they should have. And so people always say that they step in too much.
Different ways
Yeah.
for different groups.
What these today? What gives these groups fuel is like when they go out, they want people to come out and confront them. So they got media attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's what thrives them. If people don't come out, media doesn't come out. And they're speaking to an empty audience. Now and it has happened many times, like Stoke, Illinois. People didn't come out, they canceled the rally in Stoke, Illinois, against the Jewish community.
Yeah.
A lot of communities that happened. Like they did the permit, but nobody showed, and they just canceled it. So what these people want is the media attention. They want that confrontation with people like blacks slowing or shouting. They want that because that gives them publicity.
Right.
And that's what they
And they
thrive
want to
on.
recruit,
And that's
too,
what people
don't
don't understand.
Okay, now let me go ahead and say this here. Let me back up a second, because first I want to go ahead and address something with the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers, as an organization, initially started as not being violent.
Neither did
Then
the
let's go.
KKK.
Then neither did the KKK.
No, she's right.
Yeah, she's actually right.
Okay, that's fine. But it still doesn't detract from my main point here that I'm going to get to.
Go for it.
And secondly, I want to say about the Black Panthers is that they were targeted, right, by the United States government and COINTELPRO, and infiltrated and incited to violence, and in order to go ahead and justify a crackdown and then a breakup of that group of people. And there was a concerted effort in the media to go ahead and demonize that group.
Create them to be
So,
violent, you're saying.
yes. So, secondly, I want to go ahead and take that small history and say that I think it is I think as a society, as using our legal mechanisms, we can go ahead and look at the histories of these two organizations and put them in a certain context and make a certain decision on them. We do it all the time. That's why we have laws, right? But you can't have counterfeit money because it's been demonstrated that generally when people have counterfeit money, they use it for purposes that goes ahead and disrupt society and break up the laws and everything. So the point I'm making here is that we can make a discernment based upon a long history of evidence for certain groups that they should be outlawed and banned.
Yeah, but that's
I think we can do that.
But then they would just become another
We can do that without the slippery slope theory of, if you do it for one, suddenly all of them are going to be banned. That's not, I don't think that's true.
It's like Germany. You can't do a Nazi salute.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. We make discernment in society all the time on issues, and it doesn't slide into chaos or 100% like lockdown oppression on all types of
Okay,
groups.
name the law. Say the law as you would word it.
Yeah, that's the thing. How would you put it into practice?
How does
And who
Germany
makes
have
that
it?
decision?
Germany has it.
Because Germany says you
You're saying you can't do a Nazi
All right,
but that doesn't mean
so I
they
could be
didn't
a
just
white
elect a
supremacist
bunch of
group, and I
people.
could not use the word Hitler.
So let's call
and I
ourselves
could
the alt-right.
Right, and I could not use the Nazi symbol.
perfect
And I could
example.
I could not do all the
Well,
things
see,
that you have in
well,
your
hold on a
thing.
second. The
And
thing
still
is that this is not a perfect
profess
science either. This is not a
Well,
perfect
that's my
science
point.
either. Is that you got to start somewhere. This is not perfect. Nobody's saying that I'm not saying that by going ahead and creating these bans on certain groups that it's going to solve 100% of the problems. And I think that maybe that's the standard that you're looking at this for. It's not. There are going to be people who out there is going to maybe change their names and maybe do other things.
I'd actually go there and cause the problem because
let me hear
suddenly
that
you're
speech.
suppressing freedom of speech. So the second you start like this going on a knee is nothing. The people would come out in droves because suddenly you're taking away a big part of the First Amendment. You would
Right.
incite
Yeah,
so much anti-race
Also,
hatred.
To ban the KKK.
To ban the KKK.
Would go ahead and
You would-
send this country into
Personally-
chaos.
Absolutely.
Why would that happen?
Okay, personally, I want to hear that
That's-
speech.
no.
I want to hear
No.
that.
I don't
speech.
believe that for a moment.
No, I don't want this to go underground. I want this to be publicized.
Yeah.
So I want them to speak so I can hear. People
Yeah.
can see
So I
that this
know.
exists. If you ban everything, everything goes underground, and then it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
As long as you show it, you see the hatred, then you can react to that. You can make decisions. But when you don't when you ban it, you go underground.
You know,
and that's the danger.
I agree that
That's
could
the
happen.
danger.
That can
Did you see
happen.
what they did
But
in
I think it's
Boston?
worth it making that
Nope.
that decision in policy and in
Boston, when
legality.
they spoke,
Mhm.
there was a huge anti-white
Like
supremacy.
murder is
March.
illegal, but people still kill.
March.
But
Sure.
the law is on the book in order to go ahead for
That's-
one,
that's
so people can be
simple. That's not
prosecuted.
vague. That's not gray.
And what do you
There's
mean
no
that's
gray
not
area
vague?
about-
There is gray area. Anybody can make up a gray
Talking
area.
about
That's
the
what you guys
person
are
did
doing.
before.
You're saying like,
It doesn't
well,
matter what
just
the guy did before. If he murdered, he murdered.
no. See,
You see, you're
let me
saying
apply
you're
the
basing
logic
a-
that you're trying to use here. The logic you're trying to use here, using the murder argument, is that I could go ahead and make this argument saying that, well, what if the murder there was a reason for the murder?
No,
What
no,
if
that's
there
not what I'm
was
saying. No, you're wrong.
what
No,
if
what
the
you're
killing
saying
happened
is-
by happenstance?
You're saying that
And
because
we
I
have
might have
laws
murdered
that
before,
address that.
you're going to do something to me so that I don't murder again after I get out and serve my time. You're saying you're going to outlaw an organization based on their history.
Yeah, the history
What
of
does that have
violating
to do
people's
with
laws.
murder?
By
That's
killing
not the
people
same-
and violating people's laws.
Then
Right.
no.
But then I do
But-
my time and I go
But that,
home.
that message is
Yes, that's what happens all the time. Nobody's seeing. You're demanding that this solution have 100% success rate. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there needs to be some type of legal precedent that's out there in order to go ahead and deter at the very least.
So let's
Yeah,
let's say
I
that
think
what
it
you're saying is
already is.
true, and
No,
Obama gets up and announces tomorrow, "Hey, we are no longer going to allow the KKK. You're no longer allowed to wear a white sheet in the Order of the Grand
Well, that will
Masters
never
and
happen.
things
That's not a realistic
Okay,
situation.
this just happened.
what you're
Magic.
asking.
Boom. Poof.
I'm not
this just
asking
happened.
for.
You're still
I'm not
gonna
asking
keep
for the
doing it.
president to come up to a podium and be like, you know what, all this is
No,
Then
bad.
how
No,
would it
you
come
already-
You
about?
just did.
No.
You
What I'm-
just asked
what-
for the
what I'm-
banning of the
Well,
KKK.
what I'm asking-
within the legal
What I'm asking for is a legal framework
Right.
Using the bureaucracies
And
that
they
we
do
have
have
in
this
order to
in
go ahead and
Europe.
How
disseminate
would
this
that happen?
stuff.
That's what I'm asking. Practically, mechanically, how would that come
See,
about?
all right, now you're asking for me as an individual to go ahead and
Come
like
up with the
lay out a
structure.
blueprint to implement this today. I don't have all the answers today. I'm saying that there should be a benefit. There's some
What
benefits.
can't happen?
So,
I'm saying it would
as long as
come
you
out
have-
negative,
As long as you have
badly.
the internet and social media, you wouldn't have these groups. So you right away, you want to outlaw
That's true.
Facebook and you want to outlaw the internet?
Well,
I mean,
No.
how far do you? Because you go underground. You're not going to. So you want to outlaw these people? Like I said, you go underground.
I
I
agree.
don't want to go out.
I
wanna
concede
see
that
these
point that
people.
that can happen, but I think there still should be some type of deterrent.
But I also think
I agree.
I do.
I agree. I see both sides.
Yeah.
I think there should
Yeah,
be a
but
deterrent.
I don't think.
But I
that
also
we should
feel-
suppress
Don't
it.
talk over one another.
I don't think that I would suppress it.
Oh, I'm
I
good.
think I would side with him. You leave it out there. We have things that are hate, and we have things that are civil disobedience.
Yeah.
We have those things. However, kind of going on his perspective, if I have the conversation out there, I can find out what is motivating you to hate these people, and maybe address your issue versus just trying to shut you up. Because I can't solve a problem if the problem is not being out there.
Exactly.
And I can't
Exactly.
stop you. What do you think that Jews want? What 5% of the entire world population can really take the KK's job away?
I think
would
that
be awesome.
conversation can still be had without certain organizations that have a long history of
Just
murdering,
giving them
killing
carte
people,
blanche.
wanting and killing people. I think that we can make a discernment to target certain organizations. I don't believe in this slippery slope argument that if you do one, suddenly all of them are going to go ahead and go. I think that I don't think that will happen.
So are we
I'm not
saying
talking
that the
about
groups
the
that kill the
slippery slope.
most
I'm
can't
talking
protest
Right.
anymore?
That's
Because I got news for you. 1 in 11 killings do come from black people.
Well, you know what I
Are you
mean.
saying?
You know what I
That's-
mean. You're mischaracterizing my argument here. You know exactly what I mean. You know I'm talking about the. You know I'm talking about the
You're talking about
KKK.
one
You know I'm
specific
talking
group.
about neo-Nazis. You know I'm talking about those type of organizations, those type of hate group organizations. You know I'm talking
So
about.
Yeah.
basically,
I know what you're talking
you are
about.
aiming for a ban on hate speech, which we do not have in our country. So we allow hate speech.
No,
we just
we don't.
you can't have violence.
I guess more as we work this out in real time here. You know, more of what I'm asking for are for organizations.
I just stand out there and say, I hate Jews
Hold on a
all
second.
day.
Oh yeah, you can.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's protected. So you're aiming for that to be a harsher, maybe a law.
You know, there's management too, and I don't know, and nobody noticed. I haven't heard much, but when the Nazis had their next thing in Boston, and they had that huge march alongside, and when the news went over to where the Nazis were, the news couldn't get near them. They were surrounded. They were blocked off. Nobody, no white people, no black people, no news could get anywhere near the Nazis. And nothing happened. And nobody knows what the Nazis said. Nobody saw pictures of them on TV. Nobody saw them with torches or anything. And the other march of people. I mean, that's how it should be handled. Like I said, they had no platform. And it was up to the Boston police kept them away from everybody, which was pretty awesome.
But
Well, I mean, that's kind of
Nobody
on.
was there to
That's kind of
hear
on
them.
the way on to the type of policies I'm
Yeah,
talking
because
about here.
Right.
at the end
You're kind of on
the
the path
day,
there,
we
right?
Tackled them.
Because the police
Not
are
really
involved. They're
reason why
sectioning
they
these
did.
people off. I would say that was
We
great that they
Yeah,
went
the
ahead
guy
and
on
did that.
CNN was, the Nazis are over there. You can't see them from here, but they're back there.
Yeah,
We
but
can't
that
get
was,
over
but
there.
I don't know
Well,
if that was that. I don't know if that was the right thing to do. They're out there protesting. Think about the suffragettes.
So you say the police
When they
shouldn't be
were-
there? Should just let them go?
I think you protect everyone from everybody, but I don't think you keep them isolated. You might as well have kept the suffragettes.
See,
from
there
walking
has to
on
be some
Washington.
line. to me.
Back when
See,
they
and
were
it
fighting
kinda
for the right
sucked.
to vote.
But then, like we were saying earlier, this whole mess that's happened with Trump and stuff is actually putting all this stuff out there on a stage in the forefront for us to deal with.
True.
And
Yeah.
freaking
That's
To
figure
distract
it
us
out.
from what we should really
Well,
do.
that's true.
Well, David, what should we? What should we really be dealing with? That's a good question.
What should we really be dealing with? We just had a major vote that luckily was taken down by the Republicans on a
Thankfully.
very bad tax thing. Guess what? My
that
liberal
worked.
friends weren't talking about that. They were talking about the frickin' NFL.
But it
They-
did go down.
It didn't, but it wasn't because people came up
Right,
and made this
fair.
protest. It was because a couple Republicans
We got
said, "Hey,
lucky.
what are we doing?"
People were
We
inside
got
the-
lucky.
People were inside the Capitol protesting Grand Cassidy. I was just in D.C. and people were protesting.
But
the bill.
certainly
Some
not
people are
paying
not
attention.
nearly as much. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, you're
I
right.
saw the news
The people were there.
feeds, but they were like buried, like literally. In my news, I read a lot of news.
You did or did not?
Also, people just
Okay.
didn't take it seriously. I don't think anyone was
Well,
like,
I honestly didn't open up that many articles because I was just like, that's not gonna.
it's not going to pass. Yeah, if you've
Yeah.
been paying attention to anything with healthcare and the
But it
Republicans
could've.
for the past 7 months.
It could have,
Well, it could have.
It won't.
Trump
but it
got
didn't.
elected.
I don't. I think that what Mitch McConnell did come out and say they're not bringing you up to vote anymore, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think I heard that in the
We have a
side check.
territory
We're
that's
gonna
getting
wait till
almost
after
no
this budget.
support out in Puerto Rico.
That's a big
It's
issue.
not really getting much
That
coverage.
changed
Is
They don't have power, but
it's like yeah, you
American
know.
citizens.
Yeah, we're good.
So that is there's a lot going on in this world, and there's the Russia investigation where we just had a bipartisan agreement to prevent Trump from being able
Yes.
to fire the person.
Right.
But I had to look for
I
these.
didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah,
that
yeah.
just happened,
I've been
and that's
trying to follow
buried.
Yeah.
So yes, it's perfect distracted, and that's Trump's game. Distract. And the media. I've actually listened to a media person say this. Trump will just go on a talk and then say something random out of the blue, and then keep talking, and you're like, wait a minute, I need to.
This has been the
So
game
this-
of politicians for all American history
That's
too,
true.
though. It's not anything new. It's just this,
Yeah, it's
like, more
the
extreme.
famous whataboutisms, right? You know, like,
Yeah.
well, what about this? Let's go ahead and talk about this.
We
over
talked
here
about
for a
that last
second.
time about
Yeah,
the idea
exactly.
of hitting. You know, there were black slaves, there were white servants too at the same
Yeah.
time, and they were the elite were so scared that those two groups would bond together because they were way outnumbered.
Yeah, let's
They
go
were
ahead. And
terrified.
speaking of
They-
other big issues that are going
That's what
on,
they
let's
say.
move on to let's talk about good old Kim Jong Un. I mean, Kim Jong Un is it's an interesting character because there's a few characterizations going on here. We have a certain group of people are saying that Donald Trump is a mastermind by like not showing the hand, and he's pretending to be some crazy guy that's going to go out there and nuke, North Korea at any moment, and so they're afraid now. And then you have kind of this a military establishment saying that the United States ain't going to go ahead and nuke anybody. The cost of starting some type of war with North Korea would be extravagant. It'll be just ghastly. And so, we do have a standard protocol. We're working on this. And then we have another group of people out there who are saying that to engage Kim Jong Il on this level is like the brink of World War III.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe any one of those narratives. I think there's a hint of truth in some of it, in each one of them. I do think that Donald Trump is trying to go ahead and play a wacky guy in a certain strategic way to scare Kim Jong Un. Is he doing it right? Is it working? And I do think that there is some truth in the military, kind of with our president aside, working on this issue in a very standard way. Yeah. And I don't think that World War III is going to happen, but I do think that there is some risk now of North Korea deciding, like, well, let's go ahead and up
Take
the
out
ante.
Japan.
You got two leaders who are narcissistic and crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're equal.
And they both
They're the same
don't like.
person.
They
You're right.
Put them in a room.
Yeah.
They
Let 'em kill
don't
themselves.
like being criticized. So the more you antagonize one leader, the more he's going to go more crazy. And more that leader antagonizes Trump, he's going to go crazy because they both are narcissistic. They don't understand. As far as North Korea is concerned, they don't care if the Third World War. He's crazy enough to do it. He's crazy enough to shoot a hydrogen bomb over the Pacific Ocean. Do you realize what that's going to do?
Yeah, that would sound
Do you have any idea?
People would. We haven't
The
seen
war would be
nuclear explosion
radioactive. I know,
in
but
decades.
if he threatens that, but if one country keeps pushing him and
Yes.
pushing him, he's going to go ballistic.
Eventually, one's going
He is going to go ballistic.
Hold on a second. What are you going to say, Kwaku?
Okay, so Kim Jong Un.
Yeah, I was going to say Kim.
First thing says, I really think like we can talk with him. Just from what I see, it seems like he likes a lot of stuff about America, like the TV
Right,
shows.
basketball.
Dennis Rodman.
Love some Dennis Rodman.
What's his name?
Love some
Rodman.
Dennis Rodman,
I feel
man.
like they can talk with him, and I feel like all these tests, I really feel like he's just saying it's the whole nuke thing is to protect himself from invasion. He saw what happened in
Yeah,
Syria.
I think
He saw what happened in Iraq, and that's why he's essentially flexing his muscles. Like, leave me alone. It's more so. The way our president. Yeah, I really think it's more like him because he saw what happened with countries that didn't have nukes, what the U.S. did, and it's more him just saying, "Look, this is what I've got. Don't even think about coming around here." I really feel like we can talk with him. We might have to make some concessions that we don't want to, but the way I guess our president's going about it with this my daddy's bigger than your daddy. That is
So-
not going to end.
The only country that can control him is China.
Sure.
That's the only country.
Because they're the ones
And
who
if they
trade
don't
with.
want to do anything, this is going to go on and on
increased sanctions,
until
haven't
something.
If
We
he's
can
trying to
talk to
eventually
him.
not
We
let
can like
him
actually
talk
talk
to
to him.
whatever.
Like
So there's an interesting talk that I listened to. A gentleman who just got back from North Korea and got to the reporter,
Subway.
yes, got to speak to the North Koreans and the ambassadors and all of that. And the basic premise of the story and what he got back from them, they were very worried. They were asking a lot of questions like, can people override Trump's ability to do a nuke and stuff like that? From their perspective, and they've got pictures of nukes right beside their dolphins to kind of represent all the things that they can have now to show, we have this. They learned from Gaddafi that if you go comply with the U.S. and give up your nuclear weapons,
they invade.
you are going to get assassinated.
Yeah, exactly.
So he is not. We've painted this narrative of him being this. They continually play on their TV the 1950s, where they were actually richer than South Korea,
Right.
and this really strong,
so
powerful thing. It's just that's all they can chew on TV because the reality right now is that they're poorer than Haiti. So really, all they want is to be recognized as nuclear program, not to do any damage to anybody, but just to
leave
keep
us alone.
alive.
But,
Yeah.
but
Just talk
they
to them.
feel
Right.
they survived the devastation that we gave them before, and they feel they can do it again. Their subway system has bomb door. The whole subway system is a bomb shelter.
Yeah.
Right.
And they feel that no matter what we do, they'll survive it again like they did the last time.
That's
Really?
not
That's a
what
mindset. That's
the
what
ambassadors
Yeah, but
sounded
that-
like. Because they were worried
So he's
about.
heard it different.
Oh, you've heard it different.
The same that guy that came back,
Was
with
it
the
a
handlers,
reporter
like
in
the
a
Yeah, it was the
subway?
same reporter.
Yeah,
Well,
they
so he
told
heard the
them
same
that they
reporter.
feel they can renew again.
Yeah,
Okay, I
but
missed
they
that
just
one.
You have
but
two
that's not
rational
what they
leaders.
want.
These are
Right,
two
that's what-
irrational
They
leaders.
don't want to go to war.
You gotta understand that. That's very important.
They
You
don't
gotta
want
do
to
that
go. They
rational
don't.
leaders.
My
They're not
argument
afraid of it, but they
is
don't
that
wanna
they
go.
are
That's
rational
the
leaders
thing.
that have
Sorry.
had a narrative of them being irrational. But it comes back to my original story.
Okay.
Trump's a genius.
Well, hold on a second.
No
Hold on a
world's
second
rational
here.
with fucking
So,
nuclear weapons.
I do believe,
It's not rational,
that the United States military operates in a zero-sum fashion, where there's this approach of there are rational actors out there in every situation that want something and will protect something with their life. And if we can just figure that thing out, then we can go ahead and control the outcome and the scenario. And there have been instances like the Gaddafi instance where, the domino effect was very obvious after we decided to go ahead and do certain things with that leader. So yeah, that is, I think, a scary thing that is out there in how our military tackles things. But I want to pose the question: is like, is there any, other way? I know, Kwaku, you said that maybe we need to go ahead and sit down at the negotiating table, go ahead and
Well, we've been
give
doing
some
that for
concessions
decades,
and
so-
stuff up. And but have we though?
Have we?
Right?
I don't think.
Yeah,
We
we've been doing
haven't
that
we
once
haven't
where-
given them one concession.
No,
is the problem.
but
Yeah.
that's
You
the
can't
thing.
come to the negotiation table and say you're going to do this,
Right.
and
That's not
maybe we'll
negotiation.
consider.
That's
We're not even going to promise
imperialism.
to take away.
That's
Yeah,
why they
yeah.
do this.
Yeah,
He's not going to give up his nuclear power. He needs it
No.
for safety.
Yeah.
exactly.
The same way we have
Yeah.
1,800
I was
weapons
gonna say,
sitting.
no
Right, you
should he?
can't
I
blame
wouldn't
him if
if
you
I
look
were
at
him.
it that way.
And this is another thing too, is that the morale or the trust level is like non-existent between these two nations. Could we even sit down at Kim Jong
Yeah,
Un
are we
and look at
okay?
him? Wait, and look at him in like
Yeah.
and talk with him, and then go away at the end of the day and be like, I think that he's going to stick to his word. It's like,
Well,
and,
he did it
and will
with
Kim
Iran.
Jong
What's the alternative?
and will Kim Jong Il like really listen to us saying that? Like, yeah, the US says they're going to go ahead and give us this stuff.
China
Whatever.
is
They're
the
liars.
issue.
They're liars. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what would come of
Yeah.
us getting together and talking. Is like the trust level's not there,
So
right?
the U.S. government's not like so terrified of war. We are because we're the ones who fight it. The U.S. government is not shy about. They make
It's not going to bankrupt our country.
I really
right,
think it would
right.
help talking. Obviously, I think.
Why
I
not?
don't know. I'm not like a diplomat, but I was saying,
Yeah.
why not? What else do we have to do? We've tried this way, and look where we are now.
Mhm.
Why don't we just try something else?
We're trying.
But it won't work
slowly,
unless you
but-
put China in the
With
equation.
China,
If
throw
it's just
China
the
in
United
there
States,
too,
it's
but,
not going to work.
Yeah.
China has to put the pressure
Sure,
on North Korea.
and they don't want to.
And they don't wanna do it.
They
Yeah,
don't
what
You're
want
interest-
talking
what interest
pressure.
is
We're
China?
actually talking the opposite
They love
route,
American
where we
struggle.
start to accept the scenario that maybe Kim Jong Un isn't the villain that we've made him out to be,
He's just
and
protecting
he
his
wants to protect
country.
himself. He's a
Protecting
dictator,
his, yeah.
but he wants his people to actually look up to him, and he wants to protect his sovereignty. So he's
no,
willing
man.
to set up whatever trade.
And
He doesn't want to.
He does kill a lot of his own
I
people.
was going to say he's a president of his people, but at least he wants to keep them alive.
Yeah. He did tie like a guy, one of his generals, to like a rocket, and like
He shot a
he
rocket.
shot like a rocket at his general and blew him up. It was like,
But look at all the
There's some
people we
insane-
know that
How
do
do you
much
is
worse.
crazy?
And their
Think
life
about
is,
that.
is
Look
horrible.
what he's
isn't it?
faced. He's faced with South Korea. He's trying to take over, eventually. So he has a war in South Korea. He has a American base in South Korea. He is paranoid about what can happen because that's what happened in the Korean War.
Correctly.
The American invasion is going to happen because they want to. The guy's paranoid. He doesn't.
Why does he have a right not to be? Like,
I mean,
He's very-
yeah.
In terms
Somebody
of
the US is.
actual
You're-
ability, he's a good
Opposite.
dictator, but he's not a good person. He's not doing
He's not
it out of the
benevolent.
goodness of his heart. He's doing it to
Right.
stay in power and to keep his country a country.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's good at that, but he's not necessarily like really.
A nice guy.
No, I'm
Oh yeah. He has all A's in dictatorship in his. Yeah,
No, he gets
he's doing
D's
it.
and F's in dictatorship because if you get A's in dictatorship, you're like
Your economy would be doing great.
your economy is doing well. You're like, all right, I'm in control. And the economy's
I don't know.
here, so I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about my people rising
think that's
up
a
because they love
qualification.
me.
Yeah, the people
Or
would be
they're
But
so
South
well
Korea-
fed.
they can't do
And the
anything.
They can't do anything. You know, they can't do anything. And plus, these people have been living in this squalor state for such a long time. It's like normalized
Yeah,
to
they
them.
don't know any better.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, to go without is a normal thing. I mean,
And they
so.
worship him like on photos. And
Yeah.
Yeah, but is that real though? I
That's,
think
I
that's
heard
real.
that's not real.
I know.
They're not
I actually heard
allowed to.
I
that.
think there's some skepticism.
There is,
has to be.
But
Yeah.
I actually read a book from a guy who stayed there, and he's like, it's not. He essentially says if someone kidnapped you and held a gun to your head, you would do exactly what. He's like, that's essentially like the
Yeah,
mindset of the average
That's what
citizen.
I think it
Huh.
would
Well,
be.
those videos of them when they were grieving Kim Jong Un, and they
Yeah.
are screaming.
Oh yeah.
They have to.
They
Because
have to.
whoever stops
You
crying
You
is
want to
dead.
live? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a talented dictator there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're able to
he's
get that
pretty
going.
good.
So it's not- You'll get your they do
I
this
shouldn't
for
laugh.
generations.
It's
You think
morbidly.
There's some who support.
I'm sure there are
There's
some.
like a
yeah.
party or what.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
Yeah, also the people who are not impoverished and starving, you're like, yeah, he's a pretty good guy, I guess.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, the military class I hear in
And they pick
in North
on
Korea,
that
it's
job
very
and
like,
stuff
you know,
and
they're.
But listen to the way we're wording it. We've succeeded in our attempting to villainize this guy so much
But he
that
is a villain.
he is a dictator who ultimately plays a lot of videos from the 1950s because he too would love to get back there. Now, in order to get there, he has to be accepted. You're right. That he's doing this selfishly. Can we agree that Trump's doing this selfishly, that Kim
course.
Jong Un's doing things
Sure.
selfishly?
Of course,
But at the end of the day, we want it to do something selfishly where they build up the infrastructure because they want to stay there and keep doing
Yeah,
things
but
selfishly?
our government cannot just give them the power to create nuclear. It's not in our security. It's not in our best
It-
interest.
And
So-
every,
We can't have
every,
it.
every
Yeah.
leader has to be a little bit selfish to think, like, I'm going to be a good leader and I want to lead this country. But some people do that more good out of the goodness of their heart than others. Just because-
Self-serving.
But if you're
Yeah.
worried about the safety of your country, right, and you can create a bomb that you think will put you on an equal playing field
Exactly.
with the other
I
countries
can't blame them for
and
that.
get you to the table to have good negotiations
He's a
to
terrible
build
person.
prosperity and be someone of respected, wouldn't you want to be there?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what he's doing.
But,
So-
but our
I don't
country,
know,
he's
man.
not right. He's
So-
not-
in
so
other
our-
words, there's a clear misalignment of what we want.
So
'Cause
before
we would
Trump-
never, U.S. would never want
Is that not
that.
what
Of
leads
course
to
not.
war?
So
Because it
before
would take
Trump
our power
started
away.
the talk, they were already talking with them about how they could be accepted as a nuclear power.
Okay,
These happened. That was the
6:45.
Iranian deal where we did that
yeah,
with another
we
country.
did do that with Iran.
And-
kind of.
All we have to do is say, yeah, sure, we're not going to sell you the stuff. You're going to have rinky-dink little nukes, but if it's going to make you
But we
feel
don't
better,
see.
It's already too late as well. on that.
Right,
Yeah,
it's
They're
too
really
late.
doing
As-
this like it's at least a little rational.
That's what I'm
North Korea.
saying.
And
There's
What the North Korea? You can't equate North Korea. to
Iran
Iran.
has
You
had
can't.
to play
You
along
can't.
for years
Why
to
not?
become a part.
Because the leader of Iran, the people have gone to Iran. They love Americans. They love Americans. They love American culture. Iran has nothing to do with, has a lot of issues with America because of what happened in the 50s.
Right,
The country that
they
should worry
wanna
about Iran
destroy
is
Israel.
Israel.
right. They
That's the
want to-
country they have to worry about. That's the only country that really Iran has actually said they want to annihilate.
Right.
They
don't
never
worry
said they
about
want to
it, they
attack.
wanna-
Well, I'm just saying they never said they want to attack America.
Right.
They never said they want to.
That's all right.
Yeah.
But they
So I'm
did
just
say
saying.
they
I'm
Attack
did-
just-
they
Israel.
did
And I
that,
never did that.
but they did
I lived in Israel,
kidnap-
you know,
but
most all
they
my life.
kidnapped-
And I
they
served the
kidnapped
idea.
Americans.
So I understand that problem. But as an American, Israel's an ally, I agree. And the Americans will back Israel if they're attacked. But Iran is not like North Korea. I'm talking about the two leaders. The Iranian leader has not threatened the United States.
Sure.
Never.
Right.
Never.
Yeah.
Kim Jong Un
I
has.
agree.
Okay, that's why the two leaders are completely different. You know, and
We're
the Iranian
like
leader
arch
cares about his
enemies.
people. You know, the people live a normal life. They do. You know?
Right.
If you're, you know, people have said that they're the most, you know,
They do.
friendly people. If you go to Iran, they love, you know, it's not like Syria or Damascus. But in North Korea, it's completely different.
So
The
let's.
leader is irrational. And you
So-
can't deal with an irrational man.
All right,
Sorry.
all right. On that, let's go ahead. I mean, we could talk about Kim Jong Un and Donald Trump all day. I mean, I do think it's a funny image to see like Donald Trump sitting down like in front of like Kim Jong Un, like.
It is.
Well, but the thing is,
It's a character.
what I heard,
talking
he
to each other.
talks a lot, but then when he's actually like what he was talking with that junk about Mexico, he's sitting next to the Mexican president. And he's, hey man, don't tell him about the war.
It gets back to your brilliance.
Yeah, he's a child, man. He's something.
Yeah.
He could be charming, I think. If he
Um,
stopped doing
Okay, let's move on to like the universal basic income. Kyle, what do you think
Oh,
about
wow.
that, man?
Okay.
Switching gears.
Go around the table with this.
Switching
Don't-
gears, that's
yeah,
like
go
a big
around the
one.
table with this. Don't just-
Well, can you first like define what you would say? Like, what can we all agree on with the term?
Yeah, what's
Well,
the question?
all
What
right.
do you
So
mean?
the idea that
Word.
we're bringing up with this topic here is universal basic income, and the idea of like, is this a plausible path for economic growth of our nation,
Right.
and for something that will be beneficial to citizens?
I had this discussion with my brother earlier, and what I'm saying is, when you say we're universal basic income, are you saying like a minimum wage? Or are you saying everybody
Every
is
person
entitled
gets
to
X amount of money.
X amount of money.
Okay, that's all I
X
was
amount of
You
asking.
money.
get a check,
Because that's
Bill Gates
different.
get a check, everybody gets a check.
Regardless of the
It's
amount.
You get a certain
Yeah.
amount that meets a certain
And there's
need.
universal basic.
Basic.
Yeah, Bill Gates gets the same
So
check you get.
extremely socialist government.
Oh,
Yeah.
So there's no penalty for earning more.
Right.
You just get this.
It doesn't.
Oh.
It doesn't
Yeah.
dissolve.
So everyone
Any-
gets $500 a year. or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, so
Just
I mean,
get enough to
on-
live.
So we're not going to go around the room because we don't got time to go around the room like that. But I'm just going to let Kyle lead off here and what your thoughts are.
On, like a humanitarian moral basis, of course, yeah, I would be all for that. But on a true sort of practical economic basis, I just don't think it's possible. Because the amount of money that you would have to sort of be paying into that system, like where would the money come from? That's always the first question. And the amount of money that you have to be paying, people at this point aren't willing to pay taxes, even though you get a nice road and you get firemen and cops and hospitals and like all these other things.
We still don't want to pay.
So I just don't see it happening. Do I think it's a good idea, like in terms of giving people basic like rations almost for access to food? Yeah, because there's freaking people starving in the street with no homes. It's just I don't think that we'll ever be able to reconcile those two things. But yeah, as a moral imperative, definitely I would support that. But I don't see any moral.
I agree with
any
you
moral reason.
wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
The reason I would support it is because eventually, in years to come, robots are going to take a lot of jobs.
Yeah, the jobs are going
And a
up.
lot of jobs are going to be.
That's the why it's coming.
That's the one issue.
Good point.
And then people, maybe 10, 15 years, automation is going to be completely taken over.
Yep.
And
So
when
you're not going to have workers, employees. It's going to be people out of work. So many people out. That's why I agree with it.
We've been
That's
predicting
the
that
only
for
reason.
so many decades, like with the introduction of cars
I
and the
know.
elimination of all of these
Tractor
things.
trailer.
We thought, and now we're
Drivers.
still at a 4.9% rate. To put it in real perspective, it's been studied in UK. It was actually voted on in Sweden, where 78% of people went against it after they saw how much their taxes would raise as a result of it. There was the only case study we have is Finland, where they didn't show an increase of people. The logic on basic income is that if you incentivize unemployed people by saying you can still get a job and still collect unemployment, then it's going to work better. And they tried it in Finland and just didn't show that. The only positive thing they could say is that it eliminated a little bit of stress out of the 2,000 people who got to try its life. Because if you have more money, it's a little bit less
I
stressful.
don't know if that you're still incentivized to do better.
No, you're not.
I don't want because I
Not
don't want to
if
live.
basically-
In
Well, hold on a
this-
second. Let
I don't
Matt
want to
finish.
live in this one room apartment.
Yeah, but
I can.
right, so I don't have to do anything.
Right.
And you
but
can
I,
pay for me.
But I can. But I want to live in a mansion. So I
Okay.
can still come up with products and come up with ideas, and I can still have a nice car, and people will still do that. Those people, Bill Gates would still be Bill Gates. You think he wouldn't have done what he did because he could live without working in a one-bedroom apartment?
Don't you think automation is going to take
No, I'm
us-
saying, but that's the other part of it. People are saying this
Are we talking about with automation or
incentivizes
just now?
people from working. No, I'm talking. This is going to be like in the future.
Well, hold on a second. So let's make it.
Years.
Hold on a second. Let me make this distinction
John,
here,
we'll go.
because Kwaku made a good point here. Is that there's like I think what we're talking about is eventually in the future.
Right.
I think like Kyle said here that it's not really realistic like right now in today's political and economic climate for there's something to be a universal basic income. It's just not going to happen like that. There will have to be some type of progressive slow
and what
change.
ties in with that is things get cheaper. As things are more automated, things will get cheaper and free.
But if you don't
Yes,
have
they
the
will.
workers
It's
to
like
work, you can't buy
GPS
it.
is free.
Sure.
But if you don't
And
have
things
the
in
money,
the
you
future
can't buy it.
will be like that. No, but the universal basic income will cover the things that you don't.
Oh, yeah.
But overall, people will not have jobs.
Isn't the goal of automation to make things cheaper? Like that's literally
That's
the
what I mean.
purpose
So
of it.
things will be cheaper. That level of money will be lower that you'll need
Right.
to live on.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so there's
and you
so
could
much
take a job
fiat
doing
on
what
that.
you like to do, or you could do a job that benefits other people instead of going and toiling.
Right.
14 hours a day. You
Because
could
you have
do
to
something
survive.
that's artistic or something that benefits other people. And
Yeah.
And we'll have new jobs as well.
I'm sorry, this
Right,
sounds like this
Coal
beautiful
is
thing.
going
does.
away, so we're losing jobs from coal, and we lost jobs before when the trains weren't as big.
When the horse
You know,
people were-
yeah, when the people lost their jobs driving horses and buggies too. But like, there's always going to be changes.
Yeah. Like, how many programmers were there 100 years ago? How many chimney sweeps are there today?
Right.
In
There are still
50
some.
years, are we
Are
just
there?
going to come
Well
up
said.
with
Yeah.
new jobs?
Yeah.
We
But
can't
the
speak
future
about the
will take away.
future, so we have to speak about the now. And right now, all the studies have said it would be too
Less.
expensive,
I agree with
and the
That's true, it'll be less
distribution.
No, because I've listened to podcasts, economists saying the opposite.
Right.
So
We can speak about the
what you
future. I
listen
mean,
to
I don't know
say
why
no,
we
but
can't
I've
speak
heard
about the future.
opposite.
Well,
I mean, I think that there is, studying human history and economics and whatnot, that there is sufficient data out there to talk about maybe where things are projected to go. I don't think it's impossible to project this. I think that, like, you guys are saying here is that, cost is being reduced, things are being automated, but, there's still the issue of, like, is there ever going to be, like, zero, unemployment, is there ever going to
or
be
0%
Or
employment.
I'm sorry,
Zero
employment.
employment.
Yeah, employment. So, I mean, we can go ahead and talk about this and project it. I just want to go ahead and point that out. Any ideas? Anything else
I
anybody to say?
can't wait.
I'm kind of more with Ed, and I'm a little worried about the singularity. I don't know if it's going to be happening the next 10, 15 years, but I'd say maybe like, let's say 50 years, where
Right.
Look how many jobs.
I mean, computers will be a computer or a artificial intelligence will become intelligent, and which then, oh man, I feel like we might be in some trouble.
So, an interesting part is that the person who ironically created this entire subject on there will be 25% unemployment by 2030 because of machines was working on what's known as the chess effect, where you start with a grain of rice on the first chess piece, double, and once you start going, well, that's what we've seen from the 1960s till 2012. What we've seen now is a progression that is so drastically slow, like we're talking about the slowdown of the economy, because things have kind of they say that we're exiting the second industrial age, which means that we're not going to see these leaps and bounds. We're not going to go from rotary phones to iPhones again. We've hit that kind of
Plateau,
cross.
so,
So
yeah.
we're at a plateau right now, and until the third...
I've
I've
heard
heard that.
different.
But it just takes one.
Yeah, they were in the
It
middle
does-
of
it
the
does
huge
take-
industrial.
Yeah, they're still developing
with
like twice
computers
as
and stuff. We're
5
right in
times
the middle
every-
of it.
2013, 2014, 2000. I'm talking about the last 5 years. We have not had that exponential growth that we had from 1960 till 2012.
But we did just come out of a great recession. I mean, I don't,
What about all the genome and all the other
Quantum
scientific
computers.
stuff and I mean I could see us having to grow a different way because the earth is changing and there are other things that might come up and we are also getting more scientifically more advanced, not only from the computer, but like almost from the biology aspect of it too. Design of babies, a little bit, or a little Borgy, a little bit of a Borg, and then how are you going to handle, flooding of things? I think we're going to have to make some.
I think that the biggest thing to overcome when it comes to universal basic income and everybody being provided for is really like our mentality, the things that humans believe about the world we exist in. It takes a very long time for humans to go ahead and change our mindset about basic stuff, really basic stuff, like the whole concepts of relationships, and reproduction and things like that. I mean, it's just very recent we're getting to the idea that a lot of certain customs with maybe marriage and stuff is like completely outdated. But we operated under those customs for hundreds of years.
But only some groups. Other groups have had other. There's Chinese groups that have never been married, and they never married.
True, but I think there's some fundamental behavioral things that humans do and what we believe about each other that kind of holds us back from that ledge, from that progression. A very Darwinistic mentality, I think, is shared among all humans, no matter where we're at. It's kind of like, I'm going to, everything's a zero-sum game. I'm going to get mine, before you get yours, and we're going to fight it out to the death if necessary. And that's a huge mentality to overcome.
Especially in America.
Especially
some countries are more socialistic minded, whereas Americans are very.
Or some just societies in history existed in ways that it was a given. You are born, you are entitled to basically being taken care of, regardless of what that meant. Mm-hmm. And yet we don't have that in this country, and really not in the world now. But over history, there definitely were societies and cultures where the idea of currency even just didn't exist because you didn't deal in that. It was. We all pitch in to farm this land, and we all get some of it. It was that simple. That's how simple survival was. Which was challenging, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's more there's so many levels to I own the means of production. If you want to go into Marx, I own this, and you have to pay me to get it. Mm-hmm. That is a kind of I guess not new concept, but that wasn't the concept that existed in humanity.
Right. And also,
so maybe we'll have to go back.
Between the upper and the lower class that exists either.
Yes.
Now.
Right.
And that's where they're going to, that's why
the owners and the bourgeoisie and the proletariat.
Right, and it's getting wider and wider and wider. That's why the basic income is 10, 15 years.
Maybe it'll take some big world disaster.
Have you guys heard of Adam Curtis? Famous BBC documentarian.
Farming and all that. It'd be great.
He came out with a documentary that I suggest all of you watch. It's amazing. It's called Hypernormalization. He's won so many awards. It's ridiculous. He's really, really good. Anybody else out there listening, go check him out. But I listened to a podcast where somebody was interviewing him, and he was talking. He brought up this interesting concept. He was like, one of the major failures of progress in human society right now is that there doesn't seem to be any vision of the future. At the forefront of society, being Western culture and stuff, there's a constant harkening back to what was in the past. And everything from pop culture to movies and stuff like that, constant reboots, to serious stuff. People trying to bring back all types of originalist interpretations of the Constitution and things like that. That there's this constant past reflection, and there's not much out there talk about of the human future. Right. What are we doing as people? And so, what can we do, as humanity together in the future?
We don't actually plan for it.
Yeah. But look at that, how often do you hear that in the news,
we're just kind
right?
of hoping that everything works out.
Things will just we'll just plow through it. And another thing that he brought up was the idea of concept of hyper individualization. This concept of the breakdown of collective action, where we're all convinced we're individual actors, just operating in a world, trying to get what we need, and somebody else is not a part of that. There's no real collective society, and the whole idea of collective action and people working together for some type of future project, even small, even like building your own community, is like just being eroded, you know. And I think those are the things that's going to prevent us from getting to universal basic income.
That goes along with people talking about privacy.
Yeah.
You know, there was never such a thing as privacy. You lived in an Indian village, you didn't have privacy. You're between your canvas tent and your neighbor canvas tent, everybody knew everybody, and all of it was goings on. Suburbia came, people started having their own.
There wasn't even personal property.
Right.
Right.
So
that's a new idea.
You know, in overall history of the human race, privacy was just a blip.
Right.
It's going to go away, but they're holding on to it. Like you say, it's just me. It's what I want to do. Nobody has to know. It's all about yourself, not a village. You know,
that's why the shift in that mindset seems so impossible, and I feel like it'll take some kind of necessity to make it happen.
Yeah.
Something it will have to do it,
not gonna
or we'll just be extinct.
Adults, because we're already set. The focus has to be on the next generation, because they're the ones who are going to grow up and keep moving things forward. They're dealing with our next problem.
Montessori.
Did you do that on purpose? Did you do that on purpose to lead into education?
The child is often a promise.
That's the solution.
Living generation population that's there that no one's really paying attention with, they're the ones that are dealing with these problems in the future, not us.
This is true. So let's talk about education really quick. Savannah, go ahead.
Well, I think, to me, I always think about the children when I think about the universal basic income, because I really feel like if everyone's given a good education and good opportunity, they're not going to want to just bum around on their basic income and produce nothing. They're going to want a better society and do any kind of work that they love that's going to make society better.
For the sake of each other.
Yeah, right. It's that community. They have that community again that care about other people. And so whether they're creating art or they're creating, I don't know, technology, or they're volunteering, or anything that they're doing that will help make society
the benefit
better.
of all.
I have to say, but that can't just come from a good education. I think it has to come from, because lots of people have a good education and really don't have it.
No, a good education doesn't mean you're good at math and reading.
No, I'm not.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just
a good
talking
education
about.
means you learn empathy, you learn how to work together, you have confidence in yourself, you know what
helping
you like
each other.
to do,
Montessori.
you know how to look around and see what needs to be done, like just so many things. Respect for other people, respect for your environment.
Yeah.
That's an education.
Right, not a mainstream good education of today where you get all A's and you go to Yale and you get a law degree and now cool, you're educated.
You're actually educating
a person.
A soul, if you believe in that.
Within a culture.
Right, not academic.
You're not.
Well, it would vary a little bit based on culture because of where the
you're
child
teaching them the
grows up.
value. You're teaching them values. Culture is made out of values.
Yes, and you would teach them those values.
So you're changing the culture by
whatever
teaching.
Culture it is.
Well, the culture in America is to be self-centered.
Yes.
Well, but you wouldn't be.
And you're a loser if you're not striving.
Well, the next generation will teach you know yourself, you would care for yourself, but you also care about other people.
Then you're changing my culture, you're changing my values.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
the point. I'm not
saying. If it means we're not going to destroy the earth and automation, all these things.
That's going to change. I think that's changing. I think that attitude is changing.
I hope so, but we're not appreciative of the Indians
Not
that
that.
do
Yeah, I
it.
agree.
Right?
I don't think
That's why
that's changing at
the
all.
rise of Bernie Sanders is that.
It's going to be slow, but already
Give him
the
a hard
next
time every
the
day.
young
He just
people are
wants
more
to
open to
I know. That's what I'm saying. It is
What
changing.
age
They're more global.
What age do you think?
3 to 6 years old.
So you're right with that, yeah.
Keep going.
I believe
That's
it's
cute.
going.
Formative years. It's not cute.
That's
It's
what you're
really
teaching
what
them at
matters.
that
And
age.
these children,
Well, it depends if they're
when you
parents
present it in the right way, they love working
Sure.
and being busy, and they care for each other.
Well, but it's still their
Well, hold on a
foundation.
second. Let Susanna finish here. Sorry.
It's like,
Okay,
the
continue.
children naturally love to work and learn and get to know each other and be nice to each other, and when they're put in this nice environment, and then it's almost like you don't have to force it. You don't have to tell them.
Isn't it possible that's just human? That's human nature.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
actually killed
That's
human
That's how
we
nature.
got-
Dr. Montessori
we got
designed it.
That's
Yeah.
what Maria
It's all about human nature.
She started out as a physician, and as she kept giving them these things that children would need, and she saw that they enjoyed, she called it society by cohesion. And it's something she didn't expect, but it's something that happened.
Do we want to teach kids to be nice?
It's not just about being nice.
So they're
though.
not being taught to be a doormat.
That's such a simplified
They're not being
way
taught
of
to be a
describing it.
doormat.
Yeah.
Good.
They're actually quite powerful.
Yes,
The root
good.
of it is empathy, and it's realizing that you're a person. You're like me. You want what I want. You want to be
Yes.
happy. You want to be
Yes.
loved. You want to have things.
That's not like lovey-dovey, hold hands. Like, that's all.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not like
You having a strong core, paradigm of values, that you're built on, that you will protect, but at the same time, you're not, an asshole about it, to,
Well, you
to
may
other
not
people.
even have to be that protective about it. Like, I do think the human nature,
It's altruistic.
I think human nature enjoys actually being open and being safe.
I do.
It's
And
in our
I
too.
think
nature
it
to
feels
be
better.
altruistic.
If you travel, I think that
Yeah.
people out there, are willing to talk and be curious about each other, but you are taught to protect yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If it was safe, then maybe, yes. Like
Ever
that.
been
Then
stuck-
you would have-
Ever been stuck in a situation with with a person you don't know, like a tough situation, like I don't know, like a bus breaks down, you're out in the middle of like somewhere by yourself or something like that. Ever been like I don't know, stuck in an elevator or something with somebody you don't know, or you're in a situation where you have to communicate with somebody that is outside of your normal group, and people do default to like coming together, problem solving, being altruistic, than being like, I'm gonna get mine.
But just think
get
about
out
that
of here.
feeling that you get when you like see a little kid that's lost in the grocery store. Like you kind of, it's
Yeah.
almost biologically built into you. Like, oh shit, like that kid's
Yeah.
lost. I need
Let me
to.
help them.
That's a
Yeah.
kid. Like it's a human kid.
Children have
That's
the
it.
same instinct, 'cause
Right.
it's their natural instinct. It's like
Exactly.
the younger child's crying, they'll go help them.
So maybe the conflict is because we're like there's so much friction with our
Be
natural
devil's
instincts.
advocate here.
Okay.
I'm
All
gonna
right,
say
Angie.
we think we're all these things because we live in a secure environment. So we're able to act in a civilized
But
way
that's true. When
because we have laws
you're in a good
and-
environment
Yeah.
and you're safe and secure and you get this kind of
Right.
upbringing, you grow up. But this is what, I think
What is
this
yourself?
is your natural condition. If you grow up in a war-torn area and you're
Right.
starving and you see these things, you're going to have these traits. But those are things that you picked up. That's not the natural state of people.
Right.
I believe that the natural,
Lord of the Flies.
human nature. I guess human
I'm the
nature is a
opposite.
strong word for me because I do believe it's
More competitive.
pretty negative.
These things, I'm not
But
saying-
with proper laws and structure and government and security and all that, we can rise.
And I'm
above
not
that.
saying these things are
Yeah.
uncommon. It's definitely, you can see certain traits come up really frequently.
Right.
Selfishness and saying someone's an other and all these kind of things are really common, but I don't think they're the natural state.
Well, it can be in our nature to do both. It just depends on
Or-
the circumstance that you're in.
So
if
neither
we-
of them are nature.
if we-
That's nurture.
If we fine, that's whatever. It's just a word then. If that means then, as a society, we have to agree to nurture each other if we want the society to look that way.
I'll say
Or
like,
we can have war-torn areas, and then we're going to be like we are now.
we're
So we're-
capable
So it's a
of both.
decision then.
Like,
Yeah,
is
exactly.
it Dostoevsky that said the line between good and evil lies in the heart of every man?
Mhm.
So really, it's a lot of nurture as well. Like, let's say
Education.
someone that grows up and does just terrible things. That was in that person, but it just happens so that you take that and then you put them in an environment that encourages that, and then you end up with this person.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
more
I
and
agree with
more
that.
people,
Experiences that ended up
what will
with them where
change
they are.
is when more and more people from the U.S. start traveling and going overseas
Yeah.
and visiting other communities that, like Asia or whatever. They'll see a perspective they never saw before. And that changes a lot of minds.
One of the things I love doing
Yeah.
in the classroom is
Sure.
talking
Go to
about
Africa or go to Asia, it's completely different. I mean, you'll see the nurturing. You see, like, parents and children idolize their parents. They don't shut them away. The parents are the key to a family. And they work for their parents. Like, they don't retire. Because the parents is the whole fabric of their community.
But should they? I don't know if that's
No, I'm just saying, you
necessarily-
see the humanistic part of a person when you go overseas. I know I saw it when I go overseas.
What if their parent was a terrible person?
Well, I'm sure there are, but I'm sure the majority of the kids overseas still it's ingrained to them that their grandparents or parents or their social fact they
Sure.
put them on a pedestal.
Sure.
Very rarely is a Oriental family abusing a child. It's rare. I mean, it happens, but it's very, very rare.
But bringing it back,
I don't know about
to-
African countries, but I'm talking about Asian countries.
Sure.
Because I travel throughout Asia.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just not necessarily certain that it's necessarily right to just hold your parents up almost blindly. Like, hey, this is my mom. Everything she says is right. Because I picked up a lot of good things from my parents, but I also picked up a lot of my bad habits.
Yeah,
from
but
my
I'm talking
parents.
about, like, you know, when
we
they
all-
are
When you're
sick,
young, you're going to accept it no matter what.
they don't put them in nursing homes like we do. They live
But that
with the
goes
family.
back to our
They live,
individualistic culture.
I mean,
Yes,
you
it
know,
does.
you have to be rich to have your family. But those
Sure.
here, the parents want to be away from their kids. I mean, that's why I look at it. They, you know,
Yeah,
they
we
want
gotta
their
get in touch.
individuality.
Yeah, the
Basically.
Japanese is still there.
Well, the same thing and vice versa. Parents want their children out of the house in the United
But
States
not,
of America.
but not overseas.
Yeah, like 18.
Sure.
But
Go.
not in Asia.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
In Asia, the children bring their parents
We're gonna ruin
in
them
their
somehow.
house.
Let's go into the Eskimo trade if we want to go with that. Hey, let's leave them to die. We can't afford to feed them anymore. I mean, there are more extreme. To go back to the
The Japanese
education
did it too.
part of all of this, the counter argument to Montessori and really any privatization of schools. Yes, if you throw
Privatization.
money, absolutely
It doesn't
privatization.
have to be private.
Absolutely does.
No, it does not.
Okay, smaller classrooms, the resources to be able to go.
So hold on, let him finish the
The
thought.
resources to be able to learn in your way, which is the learnings of the Montessori school.
Montessori.
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 You know perfectly well English is like my fourth
Get
language.
it right, you're getting
All of this stuff, hasn't shown any research that it has an overall positive effect on the person as far as school. You can look up the numbers. I looked them up before coming
Research
Works in a
project on
school,
this.
yeah.
There's studies that longitudinal studies.
I guess I
that
haven't
show
in
how much-
your specific
There's
school.
there's public school systems in I think Wisconsin that have tracked the children through elementary school to see how they're doing and things about like theory of mind and executive function, not just like math and reading.
Okay. Well, I haven't studied your
So you're thinking
exact
public
school.
schools
I'm
are
thinking
much better.
public versus private
Right, and
in
it's not
general.
numbers.
The numbers
And
aren't
class
there.
numbers isn't a factor.
And if you were to spend more money on kids, in general, things can go up a little bit, but only a tiny bit.
But it depends.
So the
Actually, you can
It
throw as
depends on
much
what
money
area
as you
these
want
public
in a
schools-
traditional public
If you
school,
take,
and there's
you
no
take public
improvement.
schools out of rural areas or black or undeveloped areas, that's what drives those numbers out. But if you take public schools like Gwinnett County or Cobb County, they're really good schools.
I
They
know.
get
Right.
good education. But what drives those numbers is if kids go into black schools, like where books are not there and there's a high crime rate. That's what drives those
You're not
numbers up.
funded correctly because if
I
you're
don't-
going to take it from my property tax
Yeah,
and
it's
I
done with
live in a
property
shitty
tax.
neighborhood, then my school's going to be shitty.
Mm.
But
Right? If I live in a rich
But I
neighborhood, my
don't
school's
believe
going to be a good
education or healthcare should be a private industry. I just don't
No,
believe that.
I don't think it should be
it
private
should be either.
industry.
But I think we need to have more focus on education because if we had some more money,
Exactly.
it would certainly be easier.
Sure.
And
Yeah, I
more,
agree.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Because some
think
people
and
can't
not
be
teaching to
afford
the
to go to
test.
private school.
if,
Some
Well,
kids can't afford it.
and kids who do don't necessarily end up better, but that's relative to your area. I will agree, for example, poor areas
Right.
are going to get a crappy education, and that's partially just the environment.
But that's
Yeah, I was about to
not
say
right.
that's a
So build
massive
up those
intersection
schools.
there that I
They
think that
should
people don't
have
talk about a
more
lot when it comes to education is that it is like the environment you're in. If you are
Right.
in a poor neighborhood and your mother or father has to work double shifts every night in order to make it by, and so you're not getting the attention at home.
Yeah, you're not
you
even
got
getting breakfast.
you're not maybe you're not even home. You're running around with other kids on
Yeah.
the street and stuff like that. Then you go to school, you're not going to value it as much. So there's a huge environmental factor when it
It's not
comes
like
to
that's by
making sure
accident either.
our
Right.
that is true too.
I don't
So yeah, I think that the environment does help. You live in suburbia Gwinnett County and stuff,
everyone's
and
going to college.
you got a good neighborhood and stuff around you, you can go ahead and make
If you
it.
take those kids from that poor neighborhood and bus them to a nice school and a nice neighborhood, they do better. That's the only
Exactly.
thing that makes a
Because it's
difference.
not
Exactly.
their
But you've got a new
environment.
environment too.
Right, but their home environment is still the
That's
same.
true.
Right, it's not
That
their
is
home
true.
environment, it's their school environment. If
Yeah.
everyone's working hard.
Well, it's their home
at a
environment,
high
too.
school- Yeah,
But
but
their
it,
home environment doesn't change. You bus them out to a school in a white, upper middle class neighborhood,
Mhm.
and they all do better.
well,
They
yeah,
all do
yeah,
better,
sure.
but are they
Well,
doing
that.
but are they doing as well as the kids who've been there maybe
Right.
their entire life?
Yeah, I'm
Probably
not
not.
sure it's a
Probably not, because they have to still go back home to that environment,
We
and so
The
that's
value system that they're surrounded with. Like, I may
Yeah.
never wanted to go to college, but if everyone was going to college,
Yeah.
then I'm like, oh, well, I guess I don't have to go to college. Because I'm
kinda how I
17.
do.
I don't want to do anything.
Well, I
Yeah.
never considered not going to college. It just wasn't.
Yeah,
It wasn't an
kind
option.
of one of those things.
yeah. For me either. Me too. Is like my family's like, yeah, that's what you're doing.
That's why I went for undergrad. Really? That's awesome.
So
Whereas Angie came from an environment where she had to fight because she's the first person in her family to go to college and stuff.
Yeah, I went to
Right.
Yeah.
So something
And a
motivated her.
female.
yeah, I was.
I'm from rural
What do you
Arizona,
know
rural
about-
southern Arizona, and I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I did because
Yeah, I was the first person in my family to finish. But my mother,
I just moved there. Just moved to school. Yeah.
I think higher education is going to be becoming
Same.
increasingly
My brother lived
less
there right
important in
here.
its
Yeah.
current form.
Well, because I
Make a
feel like so
change.
many people
More
migrate
trade life.
And this was a big change.
So higher education is no work ethic, and they don't really,
Hmm.
not all of them, but there's a lot of people who are getting there and not really appreciating or putting a lot of effort in it, or they don't know how, or they want to.
Maybe
but
they don't know
they're
how.
not Really,
Yeah.
they don't have the independence and like
I think
those
more
kind of life
trade
skills.
oriented.
The things that
Right, their
Montessori
parents
teaches.
kind of just
The whole
got
idea of
them through
Montessori
it.
is like a complete conceptual change of what education should be. Not it changes the definition of what a good education is. We can't have this discussion about good education and who's successful and well educated without that culture change of the whole like we should all be
Because I will
empathetic
say
with each other to
Montessori
start with, right?
Is the only good school. Like there's other
Right.
good ideas out there. There's other systems that have good ideas, and they're implementing. Now that there's a lot more research, they're implementing more things in other schools that are, different methods that work. If this isn't working, this is working, following individual children, changes to special education, like all this stuff. But we have to do something because what we have, this industrial model of just turning out.
Yeah.
numbers is good.
Yeah, it's awful.
Meet
It's
these
getting
standards, take
worse.
these tests.
Yep.
It's still also the cost of higher education. When
Oh.
students
Let's not
have
even go
these
there.
outrageous loads. Students
Trust
have
me, I'm 23. I just finished grad school, and I'm in a world of hurt. My grace period ends in November, and I have to pay all this money for
the rest of
God
their
knows
life.
how many years. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
terrible.
You know, that's the thing about public higher education too. There's this increasing mentality, I think, of people who are coming out of school where they
Think about it.
don't even care to pay it back. It's like it's one of those
Yeah,
things.
it goes away when you die. So like,
Oh,
whatever.
Right.
well, it's one that shows you the state of like education. There's like zero faith in like people believing that, hey, I'm getting this money because this is going to help me actually do something.
Right.
It's more of like I need to get these loans in order for me to like make it on the most basic form in American
Yeah,
society.
good luck getting a basic job without a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, so people just get the loans and they're like, you know what? It's going to happen more of our people are like, you know what? Whatever, man. Tear my credit up. Don't even care. You know.
Which you know that's got to lead to is a big economic.
Yeah,
bust.
garnish my wages.
Just like
Do
the
whatever
housing
you need to
crisis.
do. Yeah, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. People just don't care about it because there doesn't seem to be any kind of mobility slowing in the United States, I think, comparatively to previous generations. But good conversation, guys.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What's the next?
The next one, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of getting more used to just letting kind of the news cycle
You
just.
can trust there'll be
So
plenty to talk
Trump
about.
Something
Yeah.
bad will happen in the next 3 weeks. Let's talk about it.
But I mean, I do like to have like at least maybe one overarching type of topic or
I missed
theme.
that AI one we had, and that's like a big
Yeah, you
a
want
hobby
to
of mine
do that
stressing
one?
out about AI. So, I mean, I'll just-
Okay,
that's a
all
hobby of
right,
mine.
do some homework.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some
I
interesting
read
stuff in
Second
AI.
Teenage.
Like with the whole machine learning, and Facebook and stuff like that, having those two. Does Facebook have that AI that was like talking to each other in a language they created and invented on their own? That's creepy.
And what
That's
happened
stuff.
was they shut us down.
Yeah.
They're trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Yeah. So okay, we can put that on there as like our kind of overarching
It's our
big
backup.
theme.
In
We'll
case
go ahead
nothing
and
happens
do.
For the
right
whole
in the next
show.
round.
It's gonna happen.
Nothing happens in the next couple weeks.
Well, thank you, everybody. Y'all have a good night.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Thank you for listening. I don't even know if you can hear me. Bye. Damn, man, we covered a lot of ground, didn't we? I mean, we did the damn thing. We went through the NFL protests, the UN summit, universal basic income, the U.S. education system, and a bunch of things in between. That was a great conversation. I love that one, and I hope you guys liked it too. We'll be back with another one here soon where we go over the Las Vegas shootings and we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and we get into what I like to call death and taxes. And that one should be just as good. We're slowly improving over here, getting better and better and better with these podcasts, with the content we're putting out, and hopefully with the audio. I do have some plans to go ahead and upgrade my equipment here so we get things sounding nice and crisp for you guys. But all right. I think I talked a lot in the intro, so I'm going to go ahead and keep this short. Please go ahead and like and subscribe on YouTube. You can find our group on Facebook, The Exchanges Podcast. You can find the meetup group, Current Issues Discussion Group. And if you are in the Atlanta area, north of the perimeter, feel free to come out and join us and have a great conversation. I'll see you guys next time. Adios.